Chapter 1752. The war broke out. There was a great disparity in the number of warriors. One side only had 10,000 warriors, while the other side had 300,000 warriors. Of the 10,000 warriors from Yuyan land, the weakest was a mighty warrior from the divinity. On the other hand, there were many prefecture warriors in the human world, and only 2,000 or 3,000 mighty warriors from the divinity. On the other hand, the warriors on this side had increased their battle prowess. Just based on the battle prowess of ordinary soldiers, the land of Yuyan was actually stronger than the immortal realm. However, there were 12 supreme warriors from the divinity. The gap between their realms was huge. If Prince of Yin and the others were not here, one supreme warrior from the divinity could kill the 10,000 warriors. Therefore, the battle was very tragic. The Prince of Yin and Zhuoqiu fought, and the two of them were barely evenly matched. Prince of Yan's abilities had been improved. Zhuoqiu might have held back. This was Zhuoqiu's usual style. He liked to hold back so that he could run away as soon as something unexpected happened. Two supreme warriors from the divinity were fighting against two supreme warriors from the divinity. Clearly, they were at a disadvantage. Now that Pan Rainqin and several dozen Deity World Super Almighties had their battle prowess boosted, they were able to hold their own against the remaining Deity World Paragons. The great disparity in their cultivation realms caused them to be suppressed, and they didn't have much strength to counterattack. The battle lasted for the time for 2 incense sticks to burn. It was clear who was stronger. The divinity had won. If it were not for the fact that the supreme warriors from the divinity did not kill them right away, Pan Yuqin and the others would have been killed easily. Pan Yuqin did not have enough experience. What was more, she had made great achievements in leading the scouts against the demons. Also, she seemed to have something going on with Lu Li. Maybe she was Lu Li's woman. The powerful warriors from the divinity were afraid. If Lu Li came out later, whoever killed Pan Yuqin would be wiped out. But as the battle went on, more warriors were dying. Soon, all 10,000 warriors would die at the Yao King city. There were also casualties on the divine world side. Zhuoqiu didn't care about the 300,000 soldiers dying here. Bang! Zhuoqiu swung his halberd and smashed Ling Qingyan away. Then, he swung his halberd downwards. Nearly 100 warriors from the Yuyan land were killed. Roar! Ling Qingyan waved the red sword in her hand furiously. The wind in the sky rolled up and turned into sharp blades, striking at Zhuoqiu. Her attacks were more powerful, but her fundamental principle and law remained the same. A gist of trueness formation of this level posed no threat to Zhuoqiu at all. His body turned into a few shadows as he easily dodged Ling Qingyan's attack. Zhuoqiu used psychic power to scan the city again and again. He was relieved after he was sure that Lu Li was not here. As long as he could capture Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin and threaten them with billions of people in the land of Yuyan, the two would not be able to resist and expose Lu Li's whereabouts. At the very least, he could strip the two of them and hang them on the city walls. Or he could find 10,000 men to take turns to do it. Any woman would probably break down, right? Fundamental principle. Having made up her mind, Zhuoqiu stared at Ling Qingyan's curvaceous body with a burning desire. This woman was indeed a stunner. There were very few beauties like her in the divine realm. Zhuoqiu looked at Ling Qingyan. She was a beauty. Few in the divinity could be as beautiful as her. She was like a lily, not as fragrant as a rose. But the more one smelled her, the more intoxicating she was. Lu Li's woman? It must be fun. Zhuoqiu was getting more and more excited. He moved around in midair and dodged several attacks from Ling Qingyan. Then, he found a chance to stab forward with his halberd. Instead of waves of fire, the halberd pierced through the void and landed on Ling Qingyan's chest. Ling Qingyan was wearing a supreme armor, but she did not survive the strike. The armor in front of her chest exploded layer by layer, and her delicate body was heavily smashed down, causing a castle to collapse. Whoosh! Not long afterward, Ling Qingyan came up again. She had changed her armor. As Prince Yin, she had some supreme relics. But clearly, she was injured. There was blood on her mouth, and she looked pale. Kill her! Ling Qingyin spat out some blood and rushed forward again. She wanted to get close to Zhuoqiulu because her best move was poison, but she had to get close. Unfortunately, Zhuoqiulu was too cautious to give her a chance. Bang! After the time for one incense stick to burn, Ling Qingyin was smashed away again. This time, her armor was not broken, but a surge of energy cracked her internal organs. She was injured again. She dashed out from the ruins and saw bodies everywhere. The super mighty warriors from the divinity were all injured. More than a dozen were killed. 2,000 or 3,000 warriors were killed as well. The divinity suffered more casualties. Tens of thousands had perished. But those that died were all low-level warriors. None of the warriors from the divinity died. Only one supreme warrior was injured. The beautiful Jade Royal City had been reduced to rubble, and fresh blood had dyed the entire city red. Broken limbs and corpses littered the ground. Many of them had their limbs chopped off, and the people on the brink of death were howling in agony. It was a pitiful scene. "Luli, where are you? If you don't come, we will all die." Ling Qingyin saw that Pan Yuqin was injured as well. Her hair and pretty face were covered in blood. Her eyes dimmed down. The number of their experts was still too few. Even if they were determined to die, there was no way they could turn the situation around. Bang! An hour later, Ling Qingyin's armor was smashed again. Zhuoqiulu was indeed one of the top 10 warriors on the divinity list. She was so strong that not even a supreme relic armor could withstand it. Zhuoqiulu must have held back. Otherwise, Ling Qingyin would have been killed. Less than 2,000 or 3,000 warriors were left of the 10,000 warriors of the Yuyan land. Of the dozens of divinity warriors, only Pan Yuqin and 6 others survived. Of the other 2 supreme warriors, one was killed and the other was seriously injured. Over 100,000 warriors of the divinity died. None of the supreme warriors from the divinity died. Only 3 were injured. Needless to say, the situation was dire. If it were not for the fact that they tried their best to capture them alive, Ling Qingyin, Pan Yuqin, and the other supreme warrior from the divinity would have died. "Luli, where are you?" One of Pan Yuqin's legs was broken. She crawled out from a ruin, but she could not fly up again. She looked to the west, longing for that familiar man to come down from the sky. What? Her eyes suddenly narrowed. She thought that the blood in her eyes was affecting her vision. She reached out to wipe her eyes and looked to the west again. Soon, she was pleasantly surprised. She shouted, "Sister Qingyin." Ling Qingyin was trying her best to fend off Zhuoqiulu's attack. Hearing Pan Yuqin's voice, she looked back at once. Her eyes lit up. What? Zhuoqiulu and the other supreme warriors from the divinity were stunned. They all stopped their attacks and looked to the west at the same time. Their expressions changed. A mountain flew over from the west. It was not a large mountain, but it was fast. A man was sitting on the mountain. That man seemed to be cold. He was covered in a thick cotton coat. His lips and face were as pale as snow. His eyes were closed, and he was shivering. Next to him was a small white beast, sitting at his feet with its eyes half closed. It seemed to be asleep. Both the man and the beast were weak. They seemed harmless, especially that man. He seemed to be terminally ill and could die at any time. However, the moment this man showed up, no one dared to move. Everyone felt a chill from the depth of their souls. This time, no one doubted that this man was in disguise. White hair, familiar presence, the sacred mountain Little White. Chapter 1753. The mountain continued to fly over, but not a single sound could be heard. Luli's arrival had shocked everyone. At the same time, he was bewildered as well. As far as everyone was concerned, Luli was invincible. His current state did not match his current state. At the moment, Luli was so sick that he looked like he could die at any moment. Many people were wondering if this was really Luli. Buzzing. Zhuoqiulu was the first to take action. He took out the black iron fist and dashed in. However, he didn't run away because Luli's current state made him doubtful. Could Luli still kill someone? If Luli was not at his prime, then it would be a golden opportunity for Zhuoqiulu to kill Luli. Due to Luli's reputation, Zhuoqiulu was cautious by nature. Therefore, Zhuoqilu went into the interspatial artifact. It was a supreme relic with strong defense. It could save Zhuoqilu's life. The others looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Since Zhuoqilu did not run away, they gathered their courage and stayed where they were. Soon, the mountain flew over and stopped 3 miles away from them. Luli was still trembling. His eyes were closed, and there was no expression on his pale face. Pan Yuqin struggled to her feet, but said nothing. She just looked at Luli nervously. She was not sure if Luli, who was in such a weak state, could save his life today, or would he die with them? Ling Qingyan wanted to go back to Lu Li's side, but she chose not to. She chose to trust Lu Li. Since he was here, he must be confident. After the time for 5 breaths, Lu Li opened his eyes. Even though he was trembling, his eyes were calm. He was like a cold beast, devoid of human emotions. He narrowed his eyes and swept his gaze across everyone's faces. His lips moved slightly, and he spoke in a weak voice. I wiped out the demons and saved the divine realm. Is this how you repay me? His voice was very weak, but because the whole place was too quiet, it still reached everyone's ears. As soon as Lu Li finished his words, many people lowered their heads and dared not to look into his eyes. Even the supreme warriors in the divinity pulled a long face. No one dared to say anything. After a full 10 breaths, Zhuoqilu gritted his teeth and said, Lord Lu, we heard that you were held hostage by Prince Yin and his men, so we came to rescue you. The ring on Lu Li's hand suddenly glowed as the cold blade saber appeared. He swung it gently, and a ray of sword light lit up the sky. As soon as the saber light appeared, it was like a bolt of lightning striking out of the darkness, causing everyone's heart to palpitate. The saber light turned 3 times in the air, and a terrifying pressure suppressed the entire area. Everyone stopped breathing and forgot to react. They could only watch as the saber light whistled down. Zhuoqilu felt it the most. His eyes were filled with fear because the saber light had locked onto him. But at this moment, he couldn't move at all and could only watch as the saber light slashed down. Bang! The saber light slashed heavily on Zhuoqilu's body, splitting his body into 2. The saber light continued on and slashed dozens of soldiers from the divine realm into pieces. Hiss, hiss, many people gasped. Several supreme warriors in the divinity finally came to their senses. They all stepped back in terror. Little White, Luli said gently. Little White dashed away from the mountain like an arrow. It was fast and approached a supreme warrior in the divinity who was still in a daze. What? That supreme warrior in the divinity was not a good-for-nothing. Seeing Little White coming, he waved his sword and was about to stab at Little White. However, at that moment, Lu Li suddenly raised his saber and looked at the supreme warrior. The supreme warrior in the divinity was scared out of his wits after being stared at by Lu Li. His instinct to attack slowed down. Little White slid over and stuck to the supreme warrior's neck. Then, Little White opened its mouth and began a bite. The supreme warrior in the divinity let out a miserable cry. His neck, which was so hard that not even mighty warriors in the divinity could cut open, was bitten off by Little White in an instant. Whitey's teeth were extremely sharp, and the speed at which it chewed was too fast. Buzzing at the same time, Lu Li's wicked bead was glowing. Many worms of the void whooshed out and danced around him. Looking at the iron ball, where Zhuoqilu was, Lu Li said coldly, Master Zhuoqilu, I know you want to kill me. Come on, let's have some fun. I am very weak now. You can kill me in 1 move. Whoosh, with that said, Lu Li flew the mountain toward the iron ball where Zhuoqilu was. Inside the iron ball, Zhuoqilu's eyes were flickering. His instinct told him that Lu Li was really weak at the moment. He could only make 1 or 2 more moves at most. However, Lu Li's attacks were powerful and that beast was horrifying. Lu Li had the worms of the void. Could Zhuoqilu win? If he lost, he would suffer a crushing defeat. Zhuoqilu would be killed. Soon, the Zhuoqilu family would become history. Retreat, Zhuoqilu shouted. He flew the iron ball toward the south in a blur. The other divinity's supreme warriors were scared out of their wits. They ran away without any hesitation. Run, run quickly. Lord Lu, don't kill us. We are forced to do this. We surrender, we surrender. Lord Lu, don't kill us. Zhuo Qiulong and the other powerful warriors had run away. The remaining warriors lost their will to fight. Many ran to all sides. Some of them knelt on the ground and surrendered. Lu Li looked at Ling Qingyan. The latter understood at once. He shouted, "Kill them all." Ling Qingyan did it himself. A severely wounded supreme warrior from the divinity also joined in the killing. Even Pan Yuqin and Little White joined in. The morale of the warriors of the land of Yuyan was soaring. They began to fight back. The 1,000 or 2,000 warriors who wanted to surrender were soon slaughtered. Ling Qingyan even led a team to hunt them down. He vented all his anger and frustration. Lu Li didn't take any more actions. He didn't even use any worms of the void. Little White was the only one that followed. Of course, the worms of the void could not tell which were from the divinity and which belonged to the land of Yuyan. Lu Li could not use them at all. Lu Li sat on a mountain with his legs crossed. He put away the worms of the void and closed his eyes again. He was trembling again. He seemed to be sick and could die at any moment. But nobody dared to belittle him. That was how Lu Li was just now. Yet, he killed 2 supreme warriors from the divinity and scared off Zhuo Qiulong and the others. Whoosh, Pan Yuqin did not go after them. She took 2 healing pellets, flew up, and squatted next to Lu Li. She wiped the blood off her face to make herself look less wretched. She asked softly, "Lu Li, how are you?" Chapter 1754. This time, Zhuo Qiulu and the other 9 divinity warriors didn't stop. They flew straight to the south. They had no more hesitation. All they wanted to do was to go back to the divinity first. The death of the 2 divinity warriors told them that this time, Lu Li was serious. He would kill people 1 move for each. That little beast seemed to have no energy. Yet, it could kill a divinity warrior easily, which made them shiver in fear. When 2 armies were at war, morale was the most important factor. Once the morale was down, no one would have the courage to turn back. Zhuo Qiulu was the same. He regretted that he should have taken a gamble. If all of them swarmed up, they might have been able to kill Lu Li. But now everyone had fled. Did he have the courage to go back alone? What was more, what if Lu Li could release more attacks? What if Lu Li risked his life and killed everyone? Nobody dared to take the risk. Also, Lu Li's ferocity had frightened them. Even Zhuo Qiulu was confused. He didn't know what to do. They had to go back to the divinity and discuss. Previously, they had thought that even if Lu Li came out, what could they do? He had taken the elixir, which would backfire on him. His abilities would be compromised, and they could kill him easily. However, when Lu Li came out, they realized that he was still like an insurmountable mountain that they could only look up to. The moment Lu Li made his move, they sensed fear from the depth of their souls. They felt Lu Li was more horrifying than Lord Ji or even Emperor Yoshing. That trembling, sickly-looking body contained a terrifying energy that could easily tear anyone apart. Go back. Go back. Along the way, Zhuo Qiulu kept thinking about this. He stopped several times, but in the end, he could not summon up the courage. Only when a man was at the end of his rope would he fight with his life on the line. Zhuo Qiulu was not at the end of his rope. He still had cards up his sleeve. His fear of death, on top of that, prevented him from turning back. I will have to resort to my trump card. The higher-ups cannot intervene when humans and demons are fighting. Lu Li is a human. As long as the higher-ups are concerned about the interests of the divinity, they will step in. Zhuo Qiulu murmured. His eyes were glowing. Lu Li was not from the Yuan land. In other words, he did not rely on any force behind the Yuan land. Therefore, Lu Li was no different from the Slayer. In the past, Sha Di had endangered the existence of the Space-Time Mansion. In the end, the forces above the Space-Time Mansion had sent people to the lower realm to kill him. This time, he could also ask for help from the higher-ups. For the higher-ups, as long as they didn't break the rules, killing Lu Li would be as easy as killing an ant. Yes, yes. The more Zhuo Qiulu thought about it, the more excited she became. Based on Lu Li's personality, he would not take the initiative to side with the forces behind the land of Yuyan. Since that was the case, it did not violate the rules, and there was nothing for the higher-ups to fear. In reality, the land of Yuyan also had the support of a great force. Otherwise, how could the heaven and earth divine formation stop the four transcendent god forces? In fact, they had always suspected that this heaven and earth divine formation was actually set up by the powers above. Otherwise, how could a divine formation cover such a huge area? Back then, Lu Li did not join the craftsman's sect. He even turned against the craftsman's sect. It could be seen that Lu Li did not like to join any forces. As long as he did not join the forces behind the land of Yuyan, the forces behind the space-time mansion could send experts to the mortal world to kill Lu Li. We must hurry. Zhuqilu nodded. Before the forces behind the land of Yuyan reacted, they must inform the forces behind them. Once the powerful warriors from the mortal world came down, killing Lu Li would be a piece of cake. Swish! Zhuqilu no longer hesitated. She flew toward the divinity as fast as she could. Soon, she turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the southern sky. Zhuqilu did not stop. The other powerful warriors did not dare to turn back. They all fled toward the divinity. The remaining troops did the same. Ling Qingyan was still chasing after them with powerful warriors. The divinity's army was defeated. The Yao King city finally settled down. Lu Li sat on the mountain with his legs crossed, motionless. He said nothing and did nothing. But as he sat there, he was like a tall mountain supporting the world for everyone, making everyone's hearts feel exceptionally peaceful. Pan Yuqin sat on the side, waiting for news while Yi Kai arranged for people to treat the wounded and the dying. As time went by, scouts kept coming back to report that Zhuqilu and the others had escaped. But Pan Yuqin did not let her guard down. She continued to sit quietly next to Lu Li. It was not until the scouts at the southernmost part of the land of Yuyan sent back that Zhuqilu and the others had fled to the divinity that Pan Yuqin could put her mind at ease. She passed down a very strange order. All the people below were to evacuate to a mountain 1,000 miles away. Many were injured and the divinity's army was defeated. What was the point of evacuating? Many could not figure it out, but nobody said anything. Yi Kai organized the evacuation at once. 2 hours later, Pan Yuqin made sure that nobody was nearby. Then, she picked Lu Li up and flew down to a cave that Yi Kai had built. Lu Li had passed out. The fact that he was in a coma could not be leaked. Pan Yuqin asked people to evacuate because she was afraid that there was a mole who would leak the information to Zhuqilu and the others. Lu Li was so weak that he could only use one move. Once the news got out, the consequences would be unimaginable. That was why Pan Yuqin was being so careful. She settled Lu Li down and fell into a deep sleep. She was seriously injured. If it were not for the fact that she was in a critical situation, she would have collapsed a long time ago. Ling Qingyan went after the divinity's army for several days. It was not until all the divinity's army had left the land of Yuyan that she came back. The news had spread in the land of Yuyan that Lu Li had killed the invaders from the land of Yuyan. All the people of the land of Yuyan were relieved. What was there to be afraid of when Lu Li was here? Ling Qingyan was injured as well, but he could hold on. After all, he was a supreme warrior in the divinity. She followed Yi Kai into the cave and saw Lu Li curled up in the cave. Even though he was in a coma, he was shivering in the cold. He looked awful. Alas, she sighed. The side effects of the elixir must be severe. Lu Li could help the land of Yuyan survive this crisis. Could he continue? If Zhuqilu used her trump card, Lu Li would be killed in his current state. No. Ling Qingyan thought for a while. A glint of determination rose in her eyes. She murmured, I must report the situation to the Shangqing Palace at once. As long as Lu Li joins the Shangqing Palace, warriors at the second heaven cannot kill Lu Li. Otherwise, it will be against the rules. Warriors at the second heaven can stay put. Zhuqilu and the others can help Lu Li recover some of his abilities. He can get through the crisis easily. He can even unify the divinity. P.S. I drove back to Changsha today. I have been on the road all day. This is the manuscript I wrote last night. Chapter 1755. The news of Zhou Qiulu's defeat spread across the divinity. It was impossible to keep a secret. Scouts from the Yuan land sent out the news at once. Lu Li's appearance and the fact that he killed 2 supreme warriors in the divinity frightened many forces in the divinity. All the supreme warriors in the divinity were involved in killing the 8 immortals of the Yuan land. If Lu Li wanted to settle the score, all the powerful warriors would have to die. However, the people all applauded this decision. For those ordinary gods and small families, it did not matter who ruled the divine realm. They did not have any conflicts of interest. All they knew was that it was Lu Li who defeated the demons, protected the divinity, and saved them. The 4 forces tried to kill their savior, but were defeated by Lu Li. Lu Li killed 2 supreme warriors from the divinity and hundreds of thousands of warriors. Lu Li's position in their hearts was firmer. They wished Lu Li could kill his way back to the divinity and wipe out the 4 forces and the other forces. Of course, some were worried as well. The divinity had suffered a great loss this time. Too many had died. They should not be fighting. They should be resting and recovering. If Lu Li and the 4 super forces continue to fight, how many people would die? Didn't they just lose another few 100,000 soldiers this time? The morale of the Yuan land was high. They wished Lu Li would lead them to the divinity, conquer cities and territories, destroy the 4 forces, and become the master of the divinity. Most of the people living at the Yuan land were those who could no longer survive in the divinity, or those whose ancestors could not survive in the divinity and settle down at the Yuan land. They hated the divinity, and many wished they could kill their way back. Last time, when the demons invaded, they were united against a common enemy. Now, as soon as the demons were defeated, Zhou Qiulu led an army to kill Lu Li. This ignited everyone's anger. Lu Li could not take them to the divinity. He had been in a coma for 10 days and had not woken up. Pan Yuqin had woken up a long time ago. She and Ling Qingyan secretly moved Lu Li to the city of Yan. Lu Li had been recovering in that mysterious realm for a long time, but he could only use one move. After releasing this move, his body's vital energy was injured again. One could imagine how deep the backlash from the divine pill was on his body. One could also imagine how weak his body was. Lu Li, who was as strong as a wild beast of the king rank, was curled up in the cold and shivering. It could be seen that Lu Li was extremely weak. Pan Yuqin and Ling Qingyan fed Lu Li many elixirs. However, Lu Li's ability to absorb the elixirs was greatly reduced. No matter how good the pill was, if his body couldn't absorb it, it would just be a waste. Why aren't you awake yet? In 10 days, the immortals from the Palace of Purity should be coming down. Why hasn't Lu Li woken up yet? Pan Yuqin was a little anxious. As soon as Ling Qingyan came back, he contacted Shanqing Palace through special means. The higher-ups had replied that they would send someone down soon. But Lu Li was still in a coma, which made Pan Yuqin more anxious. Pan Yuqin had long known that there was a great force of the second heaven behind the land of Yuyan. If it were not for the support of this great force, the land of Yuyan would have long ceased to exist. Behind each of the 4 legendary forces was a force of the second heaven. Otherwise, how could the 4 legendary forces have survived for so many years? That was to say, the divinity had the support of 5 forces of the second heaven. To put it bluntly, the divinity had been secretly ruled by the 5 forces of the second heaven. The forces of the second heaven all had their own rules. They would not break the rules easily. As long as Lu Li joined the Palace of Purity, the warriors of the second heaven would not attack Lu Li even if they came down. Otherwise, it would be against the rules. Just like the demons, there was a force of the second heaven behind the demons as well. When the demons and the divinity were at war, the powerful warriors would not come down. Even if the demons wiped out the humans and the divinity, they would not do anything. Similarly, if the powerful warriors of the divinity went to the world of demons, the force behind the demons would not do anything. That would be against the rules of the second heaven. If Luli didn't have a powerful force behind him, the warriors of the second heaven would have nothing to worry about. Just like the Slayer, Luli could be killed easily. If Luli had joined the Yuyan land long ago, for example, the palace of Lord Pan, he would be labeled as a member of the palace of Lord Pan. Then, he wouldn't have to wait for the messenger of the palace of purity to come down. But everyone in the divinity knew that Luli did not belong to any force. Ling Qingyan had no choice but to go to the messenger of the palace of purity. Now, the messenger was coming, but Luli was still in a coma. Time passed by day after day. There was no sign of Luli waking up. Even Ling Qingyan could not sit still anymore. If Luli did not get the recognition of the palace of purity, the palace of purity would not protect Luli. Then, when the space-time office sent a powerful warrior down, Luli would die for sure. Once Luli died, the Yuyan land would perish. The Yuyan land could not stop Zhuqiu Lu. On the 10th day, today was the appointed day for the messenger of the palace of purity to come down. Ling Qingyan sensed that Luli really could not wake up. She made up her mind and said to Pan Yuqin, "Can you help me take off Luli's clothes?" Take off his clothes? Pan Yuqin was stunned. She blushed. She looked at Ling Qingyan shyly and said, "Sister Qingyan, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Qin, even if you are in heat, there is nothing Luli can do now." Ling Qingyan rolled her eyes and said, "I'm going to stimulate his body with a secret skill to wake him up earlier. Take off his clothes. The god is coming." "Oh, I see." Pan Yuqin was even more shy. She lowered her head and helped Luli take off his clothes with trembling hands. Looking at Luli's well-built muscles, she blushed. She turned her head away, afraid to look at him. Whoosh! A few long silver needles appeared in Ling Qingyan's hand. She said, "Make him sit up and make sure he doesn't move." Pan Yuqin hurried to help. Ling Qingyan's needles flew out like lightning and pierced into Luli's acupoints. She waved her hands, and the needles flew out like a storm. They were so fast that Pan Yuqin could not even see them clearly. All she saw was a blur, and then Luli's body was covered with countless needles. "Ah!" Luli let out a miserable cry. He opened his eyes. He thought he was being attacked, and he was going to fight back out of instinct. Luckily, Ling Qingyan said at once, "Luli, don't move. It's us." Luli blinked. He could see clearly. Looking at the silver needles all over his body, he moved his lips and said, "What are you doing?" Buzzing, right at that moment, a ray of light rose from a castle outside. A surge of spatial fluctuations spread out. Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin's expressions changed. Ling Qingyan grabbed with her hands, and all the needles on Luli's body flew out. She put away the silver needles, tidied up her clothes, and said to Luli, "Luli, I don't have time to explain more to you. Later, an important person will be here. You must be polite to her and don't offend her. Qin, let's go and welcome the god. Someone, help Lord Lu get dressed." Chapter 1756. In a huge castle in the king of Yin stood 9 people. Apart from Ling Qingyan, the rest were super mighty warriors from the divinity. After several battles, there were only 2 supreme warriors from the divinity left in the land of Yuyan. The other supreme warrior was the leader of a super force. The successors of the other 8 immortal kings could only be super mighty warriors from the divinity. They surrounded a sacrificial altar. This sacrificial altar wasn't very big, but it was very mysterious. There were 9 of such altars in the land of Yuyan. They were teleportation altars that connected to the second heaven. The altar glowed for an hour. When the light dimmed, 3 people appeared. Ling Qingyan and the others dropped to one knee as soon as they saw the 3. They didn't dare to look at the faces of the 3. They bowed with respect and said, "Greetings, great immortal." The 3 didn't speak at once. Ling Qingyan and the others felt 3 strong divine senses scanned over them. The divine senses even scanned the entire king of Yin. After the time for 2 breaths, a cold female voice came out, "Rise." Nobody was surprised to hear the female voice. All the people in the Shangqing Palace were women. Throughout history, All the messengers were women. Ling Qingyan and the others stood up and looked at the three messengers. Such a beautiful lady. Too bad she is too arrogant. She's so young but so powerful. She has the right to be arrogant. Ling Qingyan glanced over. Even a top beauty couldn't help but exclaim. The leader of the three was the one in the emerald green dress. She was tall, even taller than Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin. She had long legs, a small waist, and a pair of breasts. Her face was exquisite, so exquisite that it was almost too exquisite, as if it had been painted. If it weren't for the fact that she raised her head and the arrogance in her eyes, she would be as beautiful as Ling Qingyan. But there were two things that Ling Qingyan felt she was not as good as her. First, she sensed that this lady was much younger than Lu Li and Pan Yuqin. This meant that this lady was no more than 30 or 40 years old. For people in the divinity, she was still a child. A second tribulation divine god. Ling Qingyan casually sensed and determined this lady's realm. This lady was at least a second tribulation divine god. It was impossible for her to be a third tribulation divine god. After all, she was so young. The other two women were slightly weaker than the woman in the palace dress in terms of appearance, bearing, and battle prowess. It was obvious that they were this person's attendants. Ling Qingyan was taken aback. He cupped his hands together and said, "I am Ling Qingyan, the king of Yuyan. These are the new deity kings. Prince of Yen? I've heard of you." The lady glanced at Ling Qingyan and then glanced at Pan Yuqin and the other 7 divine kings. She said with slight disdain, "Why are the other 8 divine kings so weak? Is there no one left in the land of Yuyan to choose such a person as the god king?" Pan Yuqin's complexion changed slightly, and the other 7 people's faces turned red. Not only did this exalted god slap his face, but he also spat at the same time. Was this person's EQ especially low, or did he look down on them from the bottom of his heart? The king of Yin was a little embarrassed. He explained, "Great deity, some time ago, when the evil demons invaded, the land of Yuyin suffered heavy casualties. Most of our experts died in battle, so..." The woman responded, then frowned and said, "Is this how you treat your guests?" Ling Qingyan and the others were startled. They thought that the exalted god would ask about the evil demon's invasion, but they didn't expect that she didn't care at all. Ling Qingyan was a little dissatisfied in his heart, but he didn't show it. He quickly made a gesture of invitation and said, "3 exalted gods, please." After inviting the 3 into a big hall and serving top-grade tea and spirit fruits, a woman sitting next to the woman said, "I am Guan Ning, the patrol envoy of the Shanqing Palace. This is Lady Man, the goddess of the Shanqing Palace. The other one is also patrol envoy, Guan Lu. Why did you invite us to the lower domain this time?" "Goddess." A group of people immediately felt deep veneration. Although they weren't very clear about the status of the goddess in the Shanqing Palace, they were sure that she was in the upper echelons and might even be the candidate for the next palace lord. Young, beautiful, high status, natural endowments, and heaven-defying combat strength. It seemed that this Lady Man was doted on by the heavens. In the Shanqing Palace, she must have been praised to the heavens by a group of people. It was understandable that she had developed a haughty temperament. Ling Qingyan stood up and said, "Goddess, 2 patrol envoys, the matter is like this. Previously, the divine world was invaded by the demon realm. We have reported this matter to the Shanqing Palace. I think you should have received some news." Ling Qingyan picked out the important parts of the evil demon's invasion and spoke in detail for an hour. Seeing that Lady Man seemed to be a little impatient, she picked up the important parts and began to say, "The current situation is like this. Lu Li isn't the king of Yan right now. If the Shanqing Palace can protect him, I believe that when he recovers, he will definitely be able to unify the entire divine world. At that time, the entire divine world will belong to the Shanqing Palace." Yes, the 2 patrol envoys nodded slightly. The major forces of the upper domain had an agreement with each other. If it was the 4 super forces that destroyed the land of Yuyan, or vice versa, the higher-ups would not interfere. This was the same principle as the demons destroying the divine world, or the divine world destroying the demon realm. If Luli was really as strong as Ling Qingyan said, if Luli was accepted as an outer disciple of the Shangqing Palace, in the future when Luli unified the divine world, the entire divine world would be the territory of the Shangqing Palace. You have said so much, Lady Man suddenly said. Where is that Luli? Why don't you let him come to see us? Ling Qingyan and the others looked at each other and did not know what to say. This Lady Man did not listen to Ling Qingyan's words carefully. Ling Qingyan said very clearly that Luli had taken the elixir and was extremely weak at the moment. He could not even walk. How could he come to see them? Fortunately, the two patrol envoys were sensible. Guan Ning stood up and said, Goddess, Luli seems to have some problems at the moment. Should we go and have a look? Let's go. Lady Man yawned. Obviously, she was not particularly concerned about the matters of the divine world, but it was understandable. It was just like a young lady of a super family in the divine world went to the mortal world. Why would she care so much about the mortal world? A group of people surrounded Lady Man and walked to the castle where Luli was. Lady Man was like a proud peacock, holding her head high and looking down on everything. Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin followed her, feeling a little uneasy. This Lady Man's attitude was so bad. She could not anger Luli. Luli was a donkey. What Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin were worried about soon happened. Lady Man went into Lu Li's castle and saw Luli shivering on the bed. His face was pale, as if he was about to die. Chapter 1757. The word disabled was harsh to the ear. However, in Luli's current state, he really did look like a useless person. He didn't have the energy of a powerful warrior. His energy was similar to that of a mighty warrior in the divinity. His face was pale, and he was shivering and cold. He was out of breath. He did look like a disabled man that could die at any moment. She was a talented lady from a force in the divinity. She wouldn't even be interested in warriors of the second heaven, let alone warriors of the divinity. Ling Qingyan had talked a lot, and now she was brought here to see such a person. Lady Man was not happy. It was understandable that she would shoot her mouth off. Luli didn't seem to be angry. It seemed that he didn't even have the energy to be angry. He didn't move his body. He just opened his eyes and looked at Lady Man carefully. Second tribulation, divine God. Luli was relieved. So, he was at the second heaven. He was so young, and yet he had reached the second heaven. There was no warrior of this level in the divinity. This lady was beautiful, but her attitude disgusted Luli out of instinct. When the demons were invading, this group of big shots were enjoying the show. When the demons were defeated, they came down and put on airs. Their faces were so hateful. It was disgusting. Seeing that Luli's eyes had turned cold, Ling Qingyan felt something was wrong. She forced a smile and explained, Lady, Luli is suffering from the backlash of the elixir. Everyone in the divinity knows that he killed the emperor of the demon. When he recovers, he could be as good as a second tribulation divine god. Oh, is that so? Lady Man still looked at Luli with doubt. Guan Ning was afraid that Lady Man would ruin things, so she added, Luli, the elixir you took is the spirit-devouring pellet, right? Without the help of top-level elixirs, it will take you at least 100 years to recover your abilities. Oh, Ling Qingyan's eyes glowed. She asked, Lord Inspector, do you have such elixirs at the Palace of Purity? What do we not have at the Palace of Purity? Lady Man seemed to be unhappy. She added, but the elixir is precious. How can we get away? If you want it, it is possible, but you must pay a price. Idiot. Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin were completely speechless. This misman really lived up to the words big breasts but no brains. Even if he wanted to state his conditions, he could do so tactfully. There was no need to be so forceful and infuriating. Moreover, the land of Yiyan Pass was originally backed by the Shangqing Palace. Whatever the Shangqing Palace wanted, the major forces of the land of Yiyan Pass would do their best to satisfy them. There is absolutely no need to make a deal and hurt each other's feelings. What price? Lu Li, who had been silent, finally spoke. His voice was weak, but his words were cold. Hearing Lu Li's words, Pan Yuqin and Ling Qingyan were even more upset. It seemed that Lu Li was in a bad mood. Today, things could go south. Very simple. Lady Man looked at Lu Li and said condescendingly, "You will become a servant of the Palace of Purity and help us unify the divinity." "How is it? Didn't you say that you're the strongest person in the divine world? If we help you recover your battle prowess, it shouldn't be too difficult for you to unify the immortal world, right?" "Oh no!" Ling Qingyan shouted to himself. Lady Man, this idiot, had completely screwed things up. What she said was irreversible. The two inspectors looked at each other with bitterness in their eyes. They regretted not refusing to take Lady Man to the mortal world a few days ago. This lady's EQ was too low. "I am sorry." Lu Li said nothing for a moment and said in a weak but firm voice, "I, Lu Li, never join any force and I don't need your elixirs. I am not the most powerful warrior in the divinity, and I don't have the ability to unify the divinity. Please go back." With that said, Lu Li closed his eyes and paid no more attention to them. He had already given Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin face by speaking so calmly today. Otherwise, he would have asked Lady Man to leave. "What?" Lady Man's pretty face grew cold. She stared at Lu Li. Lu Li spoke politely, but she still felt humiliated by Lu Li. She didn't seem to have been bullied. A glint of coldness rose in Lady Man's eyes. She said in a cold voice, "What is this? Prince Yin, you have begged us to go down and ask us to protect this useless man, but he doesn't seem to appreciate your kindness. Who do you think you are? You make it sound as if we, the Shangqing Palace, want to take you in." Ling Qingyan and the others were embarrassed. It was a simple matter. The Shangqing Palace would send someone with a good attitude, and Lu Li would join the Shangqing Palace as a peripheral member. Then, the Shangqing Palace said that Lu Li was from the Shangqing Palace. In this way, the forces of the mortal world could not do anything to him. When Lu Li recovered, he could destroy the 4 legendary forces. In this way, the Shangqing Palace could gain more benefits. It was supposed to be a win-win situation. However, the idiot immortal lady from the Shangqing Palace messed it up. Based on Lu Li's character, there was no turning back. He would rather die than join the Shangqing Palace. The two inspectors wanted to say something, but they had to take care of Lady Man. Therefore, they moved their mouths but said nothing. Alas, Ling Qingyan sighed and said, "Immortal lady, my lords, how about you go and have some rest, and we can talk about this later?" Guan Ning knew that she could not let Lady Man go on. Otherwise, there would be no hope. She added, "Then let's go and have some rest. Immortal lady, please." Lady Man snorted. She glanced at Lu Li coldly and walked out with her head held high. The others followed her in. Pan Yuqin stayed. She sat by the bed and looked at Lu Li. After a while, she said, "Lu Li, I am sorry. Don't be angry." Lu Li waved his hand. He didn't open his eyes. He just moved his lips weakly and said, "We don't have to talk about this. Let's talk about this Shangqing Palace." "Okay." Pan Yuqin nodded. She organized her thoughts and said, "You should know something about the second heaven. There are 36 top forces of the second heaven, and the Shangqing Palace is one of them. The backer of the land of Yuyin is the Shangqing Palace. Each of the 4 legendary forces in the divinity has a backer. The Shangqing Palace ranks 8th in the second heaven. It is a powerful force. The one behind the space-time office is called the Hall of Black Flame. We think that Zhuoqilu will invite the powerful warriors of the Hall of Black Flame to come down. Therefore, we invited the immortals of the Shangqing Palace to come down. As long as you join the Shangqing Palace, you will be a peripheral member. The warriors of the Hall of Black Flame will not come down to kill you because of the rules." After Pan Yuqin became the Pan King, she had more authority. She had access to many top secret information in the Pan King city. She knew something about the second heaven. She explained the stakes in detail, but didn't try to persuade Lu Li. She let Lu Li make the decision. Lu Li kept his eyes closed. He didn't open them even after she finished. After a while, he said, "Okay, you can go now. Also, send the warriors of the Shangqing Palace away. I will not be their dog even if I have to die. Chapter 1758. You will be a servant of the Shangqing Palace and help us unify the divinity. These words enraged Lu Li. What was a servant? That was a servant, a slave. Help them unify the divinity? Become a dog of the Shangqing Palace? This goddess really thought too highly of herself, and thought too highly of herself. Did she think that just because she was from a Shangqing Palace, many people would kneel in front of her and beg to be taken in as a servant or a slave? Lu Li appeared to be easygoing, but he was a proud man. He could be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. It would be better to kill him than to force him to do so. If it were not for the fact that he was so weak, and for the sake of Ling Qinyin and Pan Yuqin, he would not be so nice today. As for the threat from the Hall of Black Flame, Lu Li didn't think too much about it. There would always be a way out. When the demons invaded, Lu Li had been in danger. He survived without the help of the Shangqing Palace. So what if there was a second tribulation heaven god? Didn't great Emperor Yoxing also have the battle prowess of a second tribulation, heavenly tribulation? Lu Li could fight back before he took the pellet. As long as he could recover quickly, he would not be afraid of the second tribulation heaven god. A level 2 major force couldn't possibly send a 3 tribulation heavenly god down to the lower realm, right? Lu Li didn't know much about the second tribulation heaven god, and he didn't have the time to do so. He struggled to sit with his legs crossed. While recovering, he tried to think of a way. His vitality was damaged. According to the inspector, it would take 100 years for him to recover completely. He couldn't make it in 100 years. Zhuoqilu wouldn't give him that long. Then there were only 2 ways: to find a way to recover quickly or to get a top-level pellet. He had taken many pellets and elixirs from the divinity, but they were useless unless he went to the second tribulation heaven. But who could go to the second tribulation heaven? Even Ling Qinyin might not be able to get one. Besides, Ling Qinyin said that if he didn't have the abilities of a second tribulation heaven god, he would be courting death if he went to the second tribulation heaven. He had to find a way to recover on his own. The body is a natural formation. My body is so weak. It is possible that the formation foundation is damaged. The vitality in my body is damaged. I cannot make the formation work perfectly. At this moment, Lu Li's mind was very clear. He had figured something out. He lowered his head and muttered to himself for an hour. He had some ideas in his mind. Either I find a way to replenish my vitality, or I can only replenish the rest of the energy to barely activate the array formation in my body. Perhaps I can give the heavenly tribulation a try, replenish some lightning energy, and let your body recover a little. Maybe that will help you recover faster. In the thunder tribulation, Lu Li could absorb thunderbolts quickly. Once thunderbolts entered his body would be strengthened and transformed. Perhaps it could also replenish his vitality, speed up the recovery of the body. We could try it when we get back. It's a good idea. Lu Li nodded. He said he would try later because he didn't dare to go up yet. Although he could easily use the lightning gathering array in his body to absorb the lightning, the wind-fire tribulation was very dangerous. Now that he was so weak, his physical defense would definitely be weakened. What if he couldn't even pass through the trials of wind and fire and lost consciousness inside? At that time, he would become a piece of charcoal. Half a month to recover. Lu Li made up his mind. After half a month, he would ride the mountain and go to the heavens tribulation. If thunderbolts could help him recover faster, then many problems would be solved. Lu Li didn't worry about anything else after he made up his mind. He sat down with his legs crossed to cultivate. However, he was interrupted after one day. Ling Qinyin came with 2 inspectors. Fortunately, the divine lady didn't come with him. Otherwise, Lu Li wouldn't even bother to open his eyes. Lu Li, right? Guan Ning forced a smile. Lu Li sensed that she was more powerful than Zhuoqilu. She must be at the peak of the first tribulation realm. She could dominate the entire divinity. Lu Li couldn't tell her age from her appearance, but she must be old. She said, "Divine lady, you are too young and not sensible enough. Please forgive me for my rudeness yesterday." Lu Li didn't show any emotion. He was so weak that it was hard for him to smile. He just nodded and asked Guan Ning to go on. Guan Ning went straight to the point. On behalf of the palace of Shangqing, I am inviting you to join us as the leader of the external clan. If you are in the divinity, there will be no restrictions, and you don't have to do anything on purpose. But when you go to the second heaven, you must listen to the orders of the palace of Shangqing. Of course, when you are at the second heaven, we will not force you to do anything. What do you think? Guan Ning's sincerity was enough. If she had said this yesterday, Lu Li would have thought about it. However, because of Lady Man, he was disgusted by the palace of Shangqing. After a moment of silence, Lu Li asked, "What can I do by joining you?" "The benefits are obvious." Guan Ning grinned. She and Ling Qingyan had talked the day before. She had a clear understanding of Lu Li and the current situation in the divinity. She said with a smile, "As long as you're the leader of the external clan of the palace of Shangqing, when the news gets out, the Hall of Black Flames won't dare to kill you even if they come down to the mortal world. Isn't it the best thing to save your life?" Lu Li said nothing. After a while, he asked, "If I unify the divinity, what do you need me to do?" Or, what do you need from the divinity? Lu Li did not talk to Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin beforehand, but he had a feeling that the palace of Shangqing must have something to ask of him. If they could help Lu Li unify the divinity and they had nothing to ask for, then why would they waste their time? "Nothing," Guan Ning said casually. "If you can unify the divinity, we will support you more. You may become the leader of the internal clan, or even a patriarch. Of course, you must provide us with some rare resources in the divinity. You can recommend some talented warriors to us, and we will do our best to train them. In other words, we will be in a cooperative relationship. We will each take what we need, and we will work together for a win-win situation." Win-win situation? Lu Li put on a mocking smile. At the end of the day, if he unified the divinity, he would become a puppet of the palace of Shangqing. He would manage the divinity for them, and the divinity would become an affiliated universe of the palace of Shangqing. From now on, all the good stuff would belong to the palace of Shangqing. Of course, the palace of Shangqing would give him some bones from time to time as a watchdog. Well, I will think about it carefully. You can go back to the second heaven now. I will have Qing Yin send a message to you later. Lu Li did not say anything. Instead, he asked them to leave. He planned to go to the lightning tribulation in half a month. If the lightning tribulation could help him recover quickly, he would disregard Guan Ning's words today. "We have given you a chance, and you want to run a die house? Who do you think you are? You want us to go back and wait for your message?" A cold voice came from outside. Guan Ning, Guan Lu, and Ling Qingyan's expressions changed. The relationship that they had worked so hard to ease was ruined by this idiot. Lady Man walked in a hurry. She squinted at Lu Li and said, "Lu Li, I will give you one last chance. Give me an answer in 2 hours. Otherwise, we will go back to the second heaven immediately, and you can wait for your death." "I don't need 2 hours." This time, Lu Li did not hesitate. He said coldly, "You can go now. I will not join the palace of Shangqing. Qing Yan, see them out." Chapter 1759. Lu Li hated being threatened. From the Heaven Reverse universe to the 9 universes to the divinity, many people had threatened him, but he never fell for it. He would rather die than submit. If Guan Ning had said it nicely, he might have thought about it. But now that the goddess had stirred things up, Lu Li didn't want to think about it anymore. With the goddess around, even if he could join the Palace of Purity, he would not have a good life. What was the point of being a puppet of the Palace of Purity and being controlled by others for the rest of his life? Lu Li had never liked to rely on others. He had made it this far by himself. Therefore, the goddess's words had enraged him. Okay. Lu Li's resolute words and his disdainful attitude made the goddess's pretty face even more awful. In her life, Lu Li was the last person who would show respect to her. Instead of leaving in a huff, she was filled with killing intent. A warrior from the lower universe, one that could die at any moment, was treating her like this? She felt humiliated. "Goddess, don't be angry." Guan Ning stood up at once, stood in front of the goddess, and said in a low voice, "Don't do anything rash. Do not tarnish the dignity of the Palace of Purity. Guan was unhappy as well. Luli was so arrogant. A warrior from the lower universe could face death at any moment. Anyone else would have been on their knees begging to join the Palace of Purity. Now it was Guan who was begging Luli. That being said, the rules of the Palace of Purity were strict. Guan would not allow Lady Man to do so. The goddess snorted. She waved her sleeve and said, "If so, let's go. When the warriors of the Hall of Black Flames come down to the lower universe, we will see how he dies." The goddess left. Guan thought about it and said to Luli, "Luli, we will go back to the Palace of Purity now. When you have thought it through, you can have Prince of Yin send us a message." Okay. Luli nodded with a straight face. Before they left, he closed his eyes. Guan was enraged. She turned around and left with Guan Lu. Alas, Ling Qingyan sighed but said nothing. He saw Guan and the others off. Luli didn't even open his eyes. After a while, he felt the space was trembling. He opened his eyes and saw a ray of light. The warriors of the Palace of Purity had left. Rustle, rustle, rustle. After a while, Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin came together. They walked in and looked at Luli, who was sitting with his legs crossed with his eyes closed. For a moment, they didn't know what to say. They just sat on the side, looking at each other without saying anything. "Don't worry too much." After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Luli said, "Even if the people of the Black Flame Hall descend to the mortal world, they will not dare to do anything to you. Before they kill me, the land of Yuyan is safe. As long as I recover, the second tribulation, heavenly gods of Black Flame Hall won't be able to kill me. They won't send a third tribulation heavenly god to the lower realm, will they?" Ling Qingyan thought for a while and said, "I don't think so. Even in the Black Flame Hall, there are very few three tribulation heaven gods. I guess there are no more than 3 of them, unless you kill all the 2 tribulation heaven gods they sent to the mortal world. Well, then it's fine. I know what I'm doing. You guys can leave first. I'll cultivate first." With that said, Luli went back to cultivation. Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin looked at each other and stood up helplessly. Luli was so determined that it was impossible for him to join the Shangqing Palace. How can the Shangqing Palace send such an idiot down to the mortal world? Ling Qingyan was annoyed. This woman was big breasts and no brains. But on second thought, she was scolding him as well. Ling Qingyan had to let it go. Pan Yuqin busied herself. For one thing, she had to send scouts to the divinity. The divinity was in a mess. It was easy to plant spies there. Both the City of Time and the City of Divinity were under reconstruction. It was easy to plant spies there. On the other hand, Pan Yuqin sent someone to the Hall of Life and Death to find out about the Hall of Life and Death's ultimate pellet. She wanted to find a way for Luli to recover quickly. She also sent someone to find the Green Valley Mountain Warriors. Unfortunately, the Green Valley Mountain Warriors were all gone. They had relocated their people to the secret realm. Nobody knew when they would come out. Half a month passed. Luli had finally recovered some of his energy. At least, it was not difficult for him to move. That being said, it was difficult for him to even release one move of the Slayer's Ghost Slash. Even if he tried his best, he would pass out immediately. Luli did not have time to wait. He decided to take action at once. He told Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin, but Ling Qingyan insisted on seeing him off. For one thing, he did not want his whereabouts to be exposed. For another, he was afraid that something might go wrong. Luli did not refuse. He walked out of the castle with Little White. He took out the mountain and flew up with Ling Qingyan. Then, he flew the mountain up and swaggered toward the north. Oh, the mountain! Luli remembered something when he saw the mountain. He had 2 other mountains that were taken by Emperor Yoshing. They should be in Emperor Yoshing's interspatial ring. Luli asked, "Have you found Yushing's interspatial ring?" "Yes." Ling Qingyan took out a dark ring with a demon carved on it and said, "This is Yushing's interspatial ring. I haven't had the time to give it to you." Luli took it over and checked with psychic power. The 2 mountains were indeed in there. For now, he was not in the mood to worry about it. He put away the interspatial ring and looked into the distance. He must go to the ancient demon's deadland when he had the time. He had to find a way to collect the other two mountains. Ling Qingyan said that when the 5 mountains were combined, they could form a treasure of chaos. Luli frowned at the thought of the treasure of chaos. He asked, didn't the 8 immortals have 1 or 2 treasures of chaos? Did Zhuqiu Lu take all of them? Yes, Ling Qingyan said with a bitter smile. The 8 immortals were killed. Naturally, Zhuqiu Lu has the treasure of chaos, but I don't think he can take control of it so quickly. It will take him at least a few years. Luli asked no more questions. He flew on. After hundreds of thousands of miles, he arrived at a barren land. He flew around in an area with a radius of 300 miles. Making sure that nobody was around, he flew the mountain upward. Luli, every time you go to the heavens tribulation, it will be more powerful. Can you handle it? Ling Qingyan asked with concern. Few people could go to the heavens tribulation repeatedly like Luli. Luli answered casually, the tribulation of mind and soul will be hard, but the tribulation of wind and fire and thunderbolts will be fine. I go to the thunderbolts tribulation to cultivate. Wait, Luli thought of something. Where should I take the second heavens tribulation? Can I do it in the divinity? No. Ling Qingyan shook his head and said, you must go to the second heaven. For the third heaven, you must go to the third heaven, and so on. In the divinity, even if you go to the heavens tribulation for 100 times, you will not have passed the second heaven. The second heaven? Luli sighed to himself. If he could settle down in the divinity and no one could threaten the safety of his family and his people, he would live a comfortable life in the divinity. That being said, it might be difficult. He would have to try the second heaven sooner or later. Okay. Chapter 1760. For the third time, Luli felt different. The power of the test of wind and fire had increased. As soon as he went in, he felt his skin was burning. But that had to do with the decline in his physical defense. Luli's physical foundation was so strong that the pain was nothing to him. He flew the mountain up slowly, trying his best not to pass out because of the pain. Everything would be fine as long as he could survive the test of wind and fire. An hour later, finally, Luli made it out of the trials of wind and fire. Smoke rose from him as he was roasted. He almost passed out several times. His physical defense was much weaker than before. When he was at his peak, the test of wind and fire would only inflict some minor injuries on him. Luli took some pellets and sat down to cultivate. He spent an entire day recovering before he made up his mind to fly the mountain up. He was getting nervous. If the test of lightning could not heal his body quickly, he wouldn't know what to do. Squeak, squeak, before they arrived at the test of lightning, Little White had jumped into the test of lightning in excitement. Many thunderbolts whooshed down. Luli grinned. He, on the other hand, didn't dare to be so arrogant. His body was not in a normal state. What if something went wrong with the thunder-gathering formation? He was going to be hacked to death. Swish! After he entered the lightning tribulation, he immediately attracted a bolt of lightning to strike down. He quickly immersed his mind in it and carefully sensed the lightning-gathering array. To his relief, the thunderbolt came down quickly and spread across his body. The lightning-gathering formation automatically absorbed all the thunderbolts and then divided them into 720 acupoints. More thunderbolts came down. For the third time, the number and speed of thunderbolts had increased. Of course, for Luli, it wouldn't matter even if the speed was 10,000 times faster. No matter how many thunderbolts there were, they would be converted into energy and absorbed into his body. Okay. After more than a dozen thunderbolts came down, Luli's eyes glowed. He could clearly feel that his body was strengthening and his recovery was speeding up. I have consumed too much life energy in my body, which has weakened the formation. However, I am now absorbing the energy from the outside to strengthen my physical body. This way, the entire array foundation will become stronger, and the array formation will also be able to recover its energy. Luli thought it through. The haze in his mind was gone. As long as he could recover, he didn't care if the Hall of Black Flames sent down to the mortal world after the second heaven's tribulation. He had the ability to fly through the void. His physical body was strong, and his attacks were ferocious. He was not afraid of a second tribulation heavenly god. As long as he did not die, the land of Yuyin would be fine. Otherwise, Zhui Qiulu and the others would not dare to move, even if they had 100 guts. As for how things would be resolved in the end, Lu Li wasn't worried at all. It didn't matter if they wanted to talk or fight. Squeak, squeak, Little White flew over with thunderbolts. Seeing that Lu Li looked better, Little White couldn't stop chirping in joy. Lu Li grinned and said, "Little White, come with me." The mountain sped up, triggering hundreds of thunderbolts to strike down. As the thunderbolts struck down, Lu Li could feel his body was improving, and so was his recovery speed. And, according to this speed, I will be able to recover in 2 to 3 months at most. Furthermore, my physical body will be further refined. An hour later, Lu Li could put his mind at ease. He crushed the Jade Talisman. Under the Heaven's Tribulation, Ling Qingyan was delighted. She flew around, wanting to go up and have a look. But she didn't dare to take the risk. After all, her physical body was not as strong as Lu Li's. Let's go back. Now that Lu Li was fine, Ling Qingyan would not stay here any longer. She had to go back and tell Pan Yuqin the news. At the same time, she had to make arrangements and wait for Lu Li's return. An hour later, Ling Qingyan sneaked back to the king of Yin City. She told Pan Yuqin the news, and the latter was relieved. As long as Lu Li could recover, at least he could put up a fight. He wouldn't suffer a crushing defeat. How long do you think it will take for the Hall of Black Flames to come down? Ling Qingyan asked. Pan Yuqin was in charge of intelligence. She could gather information from all sides and come up with some conclusions. Maybe, but at least a couple of months later. The corner of Pan Yuqin's mouth revealed a sliver of a cold smile as she explained, the space-time city had been destroyed. Zhuo Qiulu had wanted to build a communication altar previously, but she had asked me to send a death warrior to destroy the altar. It will take at least a month or 2 to rebuild it. It will be 3 months before the Hall of Black Flames can come down. Ha! If there's a chance, I will send someone to destroy the messaging altar and the teleportation altar. Good. Ling Qingyan's cheeks glowed. He took out a token and handed it to Ling Qingyan. This is the token of King of Yin. We have some hidden people in the divinity. You can use them all. Destroy the teleportation altar again at all costs to buy Lu Li more time. Okay. Pan Yuqin nodded. If the altar could be destroyed again, she would be willing to sacrifice all the people in the divinity. The more time passed, the more Lu Li could recover and the more likely he could survive. The land of Yuyin would be safer. The divinity was still in a mess. Zhuo Qiulu tried to murder Lu Li, but Lu Li killed 2 supreme warriors in the divinity. This caused a stir in the divinity. Civilians in the divinity were in a state of panic. They were afraid that Lu Li would lead the army of the land of Yuyin to massacre the entire divinity in a fit of rage. The demons were not wiped out yet. There were still billions of demon slaves to be killed. How could Zhuo Qiulu be so busy dealing with Lu Li? The actions of the 4 forces had caused dissatisfaction. Some of the affiliated forces of the 4 forces were unhappy. Some forces even wanted to draw a line with the space-time office. Of course, Pan Yuqin's people were adding fuel to the fire. Sometimes, public opinion was important. It could affect people's morale. A force was not made up of just a few powerful warriors. It was made up of countless people. The teleportation altar built in the City of Space was smashed by a group of people. One of them was the leader of the space-time office. Otherwise, how could they enter the City of Space so easily? The City of Space was more than half built. The basic structure of the city was ready, but there were not many buildings in the city and no shield was installed. The city was huge. Apart from hundreds of thousands of soldiers and craftsmen, there were no other civilians. Zhuo Qiulu had returned. She was sitting in a luxurious castle. A group of higher-ups of the space-time office were sitting in the castle, but there was not a single supreme warrior in the divinity. Zhuo Qiulu looked at an old man and asked coldly, "How long will it take to build the communication altar and the teleportation altar?" 1.5 months at the earliest. The old man stood up and reported. The communication altar is easier. The teleportation altar is more complicated. It is mainly because Lord Long died in battle. Otherwise, it would be faster if he was the one to build it. Also, there are all kinds of people in the city. Now is the crucial time to build the formation. If someone makes trouble, it will be easy for problems to arise. It will take even longer. Don't worry about the construction. I will not go anywhere during this period. I will stay here. Let's see who wants to court death. Chapter 1761. Soon, more than a month had passed. Since Zhuo Qilu had been guarding this place, Pan Yuqin had organized a few suicide warriors to destroy the place, but they had failed. With the supreme martial artists of the divinity guarding this place, Zhuo Qilu would have to give up his life if the suicide warriors were allowed to destroy the place. The communication altar had been built, and Zhuo Qilu had successfully contacted the Black Flame Hall. Their superiors also said that they would send people to the lower world as soon as the altar was built. The altar was more than half built, and it would be finished in a few days at most. However, another batch of suicide warriors came tonight. There were more than 300 of them, and their leaders were two super powerful martial artists of the divinity. Pan Yuqin and the others were well aware that the people of the Black Flame Hall would come to the lower world after the altar was built. This was the last chance for them. The task that Pan Yuqin gave to Jian Shalai was to destroy the altar at all costs. Jian Shalai gathered a few hundred men in secret, the weakest of whom were the powerful martial artists of the divinity, and some of them were the suicide warriors of the residents of Prince Yen. These hundreds of men didn't charge into the city directly. There are not many soldiers in the city, but there were about 100,000 of them. These hundreds of men would be seeking death if they attacked the city. The previous attacks of the suicide warriors were carried out secretly by the spies inside the city. However, there were too many of them this time. Jian Shalai had no choice but to control them to attack the city from a distance and then retreat immediately. Boom! Boom! The city didn't have a protective shield, and these hundreds of men were all powerful martial artists of the divinity attacking from a distance. Their destructive power was terrifying. The city walls and many castles on the west side of the city were razed to the ground. Zhuo Qilu was startled. He scanned the area with his divine senses and was about to chase after them when he saw those hundreds of men fleeing after attacking. However, he soon realized that this was obviously a diversion. The real target of the enemies was the altar, and a few hundred bandits could be wiped out easily. He sent out a message, and a few elders led a team to chase after the bandits. Those elders were all super powerful martial artists of the divinity. It was impossible for them to kill a few hundred bandits with 3,000 men. Report, 2 hours later, a scout rushed in. Zhuo Qilu frowned slightly. The tone of the scout didn't sound like a report of victory. The scout rushed in and knelt down on one knee, saying, "Reporting to Manor Lord, a lot of demonic slaves are coming from the east, at least a few million. The elders can't hold them any longer." Several million demonic slaves? Where do they come from? Zhuo Qilu thought she had misheard. There weren't that many demonic slaves in the vicinity. All the nearby demonic slaves had been wiped out. There were only 10 million demonic slaves in a huge mountain range tens of millions of miles away. No idea. The scout was also stunned. Their scout hall had not received any news. The millions of demonic slaves seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Bang! Zhuo Qilu flew into a rage and slapped the scout away. The space-time city had been destroyed, and many of the space-time mansion's organizations had also been destroyed. On top of that, many of the prefectures in Deity World had fallen into enemy hands. Countless branches of the space-time mansion had been paralyzed. However, it was unforgivable that he did not even notice the millions of demonic slaves approaching. Zhuo Qilu still did not leave the city. Instead, she mobilized more soldiers and experts to encircle and annihilate them. A few million demonic slaves were nothing. They did not have souls and could only attack like machines. Their combat strength was greatly reduced. He could slowly clear them out or lure them away. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just as the army was mobilized, a series of breaking sounds rang out from the north. Next, more than 100 people madly rushed into the city and attacked from afar. The corner of Zhuo Qiulu's mouth revealed a mocking smile. This group of people was indeed creating a diversion. Their real goal was the teleportation altar. This altar was inside a castle. This castle was protected by restrictions. Ordinary long-range attacks could not break it. Die! Zhuo Qiulu soared into the sky and scanned the surroundings with his divine perception. After confirming that there were only about 100 people in the north, he no longer had any qualms. With his battle strength, he would be able to kill more than 100 people in less than 10 seconds. As long as he did not leave the city, who could destroy the teleportation altar? Bang, bang, bang. Zhuo Qiulu attacked and easily killed a group of people. Every time he waved his battle halberd, a few people would be killed. The divine world's great masters were no different from Lambsdam. Zhuo Qiulu died. The only divine world's great master present roared and rushed towards Zhuo Qiulu like a shooting star. At the same time, the other great masters nearby also rushed over at a terrifying speed. Throwing an egg against a rock, Zhuo Qiulu laughed mockingly. However, before his smile could spread, it quickly froze. This was because the divine world's great master and the 5 great masters' bodies lit up with dazzling light. They were actually going to self-destruct. The self-destruction would not kill him, and it could not even hurt him. However, there were still many craftsmen and ordinary soldiers in the city. The city had just been built, and if it exploded, the city would be gone. However, even with his ability, he could not stop the divine world's great master from self-destruction. He could only form a seal in midair. Divine power surged out his hand, and then he struck out a shocking shooting star. The shooting star spread in midair like water and finally formed a translucent round shield. It flew rapidly towards the divine world's great master. Boom, boom, boom. The divine world's great master turned into a blazing sun, and so did the other great masters. Terrifying energy expanded, tearing the void and causing a terrifying explosion. The violent shock wave swept out, shattering the shield that Zhuo Qiulu had formed and also blasting the countless castles and the northern city wall into dust. Hoo-hoo, thank goodness. Something's not right. Zhuo Qiulu glanced at the situation and was slightly relieved. However, the next second, he screamed in horror, because a great master of the divine world who was guarding the teleportation altar suddenly lit up with dazzling light. Zhuo Qiulu had mobilized 50 great masters of the divine world to guard that castle, but he did not expect one of them to be a mole. Moreover, he had self-destructed at this moment. The aftermath of the self-destruction had not dissipated, and the space was extremely unstable. He could not pay attention to that side at all. Stop him. He could only scream hysterically. The problem was, could they stop a martial artist's self-destruction? Some of them even retreated in horror, lest they were blown to death. Boom! Another dazzling sun lit up, and then the space over there was torn apart. The violent energy destroyed the castle's restriction. Then, the castle turned into dust, and the unfinished teleportation altar inside was completely destroyed. Retreat. Seeing that their goal had been achieved, the death warriors of the land of Yuyin all turned into birds and beasts and fled in all directions. Zhuo Qiulu went crazy. He roared a few times in rage and chased after them like a madman. He wanted to kill everyone involved in this attack. Otherwise, he would not be able to quell the rage in his heart. The space-time city that he had spent so much effort to build was now more than half destroyed, and the teleportation altar, which was the most difficult to build, was also destroyed. Most importantly, many craftsmen were blown to death. He was a dignified supreme of the divine world and one of the top 5 experts on the divine list, but he was sneak attacked by hundreds of people. If this matter were to spread, his already disreputable reputation would be completely ruined. That's right. Chapter 1762. Luli had been in the Heaven's Tribulation for more than a month. He had recovered a lot. His face was still pale, and he was still trembling. But as a matter of fact, he had recovered much of his abilities. He kept absorbing the lightning to strengthen his physical body. At the same time, the lightning turned into a special energy that spread throughout his body, increasing his body's recovery speed by dozens of times. If the body's yuan qi was injured, it was equivalent to destroying the array foundation. If there was no external assistance, it would take a very long time for the body to adjust and recover. Pellets and elixirs were external forces. However, Lu Li's body was resistant to pellets, and he could not absorb them. Therefore, it would be a waste no matter how many pellets and elixirs Lu Li took. The energy converted from thunderbolts was another special kind of energy that could enhance Lu Li's body. Therefore, Lu Li's body did not reject it. On the other hand, because Lu Li was so weak, his body was growing faster. Ling Qinyan had not sent any message, which meant that the warriors of the Hall of Black Flame had not come down yet. Lu Li didn't have to worry about that. While cultivating to recover his body, he continued to derive the Ghost Slayer slash. The Killer Emperor's Ghost Beheader was a fusion of the Killer Emperor's intent and the Ghost King Beheader. Originally, it could only be turned twice, but now it could be turned thrice. During this time, a bold idea came to Lu Li's mind. If the Slayer's Ghost Slash could reach 3 transformations, could it be 4, 5, or even 10 transformations? The Earthen Jar Principle. The Ghost King Beheader was a large jar, while the Slayer Emperor's intent was a small jar. The Slayer Emperor's intent was stored inside, so the Ghost King Beheader had an extra turn. Since that's the case, can I put a few more small jars inside? Increase the overall lethality? Every time the Slayer's Ghost Chop took another turn, its power would be increased by several times. If the Slayer could make 4 turns in the air, Lu Li believed that it would be a piece of cake to kill a second tribulation god. If Shadi's Ghost Slash was at the 5th or 6th revolution, how terrifying would its power be? Would he be able to fight against a 3rd tribulation heavenly god, or even a 4th tribulation heavenly god? Logically speaking, the strongest person in the 2nd heaven should be a 3 tribulation heavenly god. If Lu Li had the ability to fight against a heaven god of 3 trials, then no one in the 2nd heaven could do anything to him. All the problems would be solved. Of course, theoretically, this deduction was correct, but in reality, no one knew what the result would be. The fusion of true meanings was not a simple matter. It was a huge project. Moreover, hard work might not necessarily be fruitful. If there was a small problem in any part, it was very likely that it would take hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years of hard work to fuse it together. However, with a train of thought, at least there was a direction to work towards. Of course, Lu Li had to learn the fundamental principle of a powerful warrior first, a high-level one. After all, the Ghost King Slash and Shadi were both high-grade true meanings. It was impossible to fuse with a low-grade true meaning. Even if they fused, their power would not increase by much. What kind of true meaning should I comprehend in order to fuse it with the Slayer Ghost Chop? During this time, Lu Li had been thinking about this. If he were to integrate fundamental meanings, it must be offensive ones. If he could not integrate other fundamental meanings, it would not increase his abilities by much. Apart from Spatial Twister, Lu Li didn't learn any other offensive fundamental meanings. Clearly, Spatial Twister was not suitable for him. Therefore, he had to figure out another fundamental meaning. Boom, boom, boom. Tens of thousands of thunderbolts struck at the same time. All the thunderbolts locked onto Lu Li and surrounded him. Then, some of the thunderbolts separated and surged into Little White, who was not far away. Lying next to Lu Li, Little White was sleeping soundly. Little White was tired from playing and had fallen asleep early in the morning. Half a day later, Lu Li stopped to take a rest. He looked at Little White and exclaimed, "I can't believe that Little White can sleep so well under such horrifying thunderbolts." Lu Li wondered if Little White was born with thunderbolts. Otherwise, how could it sleep so peacefully under such horrifying thunderbolts? But Lu Li remembered that in the prison of thunder, Little White was almost blasted to death. Little White was not immune to thunderbolts. In that case, there could only be one explanation. Little White was so strong that thunderbolts could not hurt it. What kind of beast is Little White? Luli had this question again. Who was the mysterious warrior that brought Little White to the divinity from the Mount Wei? Who was the other mysterious warrior that helped him several times? These questions had been bothering Luli for a long time. Until now, he had no answer. On the thought of the mysterious warrior, Luli thought of Lu Ling. Right? When the demons attacked the eastern side of the divinity, did they attack the mountain of Hidden Dragon? Luli suddenly remembered something. The palace of Silver Dragon was conquered. Didn't the demons go to the Mountain of Dragons? Given Emperor Yoshing's abilities, he should have been able to go to the Mountain of Dragons. Also, the divinity was in such a crisis, but Lu Ling's family did not offer any help. Lu Ling never showed up. Was it because her family forbade her, or were they no longer in the divinity? When I recover and the matter at the Hall of Black Flames is settled, I will go to the Mountain of Dragons at once. Luli made up his mind. As soon as he made some progress, he would go to the Mountain of Dragons at once. Last time, when he went to the Mountain of Dragons, he was told that he could only go there after he became a supreme warrior in the divinity. Now, he had become a supreme warrior in the divinity. His body was strong, and his abilities were ferocious. This time, he could go to the Mountain of Dragons. Cultivate. Thinking that he might be able to see her again, Luli's heart was burning with passion. Everything became more motivated. As time went on, Luli felt his body was getting stronger and his recovery was faster. Another month passed by. Apart from the fact that he was afraid of the cold and his complexion was a bit off, Luli felt there was nothing wrong with his body. He tried to release Ghastly Slash and found nothing wrong. It was easy and the power was not weaker than before. Luli was relieved. He wouldn't be afraid, even if the warriors of the Hall of Black Flames came down to the mortal world. Ling Qingyin has not informed me yet. That means the warriors of the Hall of Black Flames are not at the mortal world. How about I kill my way to the divinity, kill Zhuqiu Lu and the others, and then destroy the passageway to the mortal world? An idea came to Lu Li's mind. If he could really destroy the teleportation altar connected to the Hall of Black Flames, then all his problems would be solved. What if the warriors of the Hall of Black Flames are already in the mortal world by the time I arrive at the divinity? Luli was improving his body all the time. The longer he stayed, the more confident he would be when he fought the warriors of the Hall of Black Flames. Judging by the time, the Hall of Black Flames should be at the mortal world soon. Luli was hesitating. Fly to the south. After a while, Luli made up his mind. He flew the mountain to the south so that he could absorb more thunderbolts along the way. If he received a message from Ling Qingyin on the way, he would go down at once. After all, the Hall of Black Flames was after him, and they wouldn't have the courage to kill Ling Qingyin and the others. I hope the warriors of the Hall of Black Flames will come down later. The mountain guided tens of thousands of thunderbolts to the south. Luli prayed to himself. If the warriors of the Hall of Black Flames were still at the mortal world by the time he arrived at the center of the divinity, then everything would be perfect. P.S. There will be a meeting in the province. The time for writing is not fixed. Therefore, the update time will not be stable. But I will try to update as much as possible. Chapter 1763. The speed of the mountain was good, comparable to supreme warriors in the divinity. But there was still some distance between the mountain and the space-time office. If Luli could fly in the void, he could arrive in half a month. But if he were to rely on the mountain, it would take him at least 2 months. Luli didn't worry about that. He was waiting for Ling Qingyin to send him a message or when he arrived at the central part of the divinity. If Ling Qingyin didn't crush the Jade Talisman, Luli would go down after 2 months. Time flew by. Soon, a month had passed. Ling Qingyin hadn't crushed the Jade Talisman yet, which worried Luli. Were the warriors of the Hall of Black Flames still here? Or was it because Ling Qingyin was killed so suddenly that he didn't have the time to crush the Jade Talisman? I will fly for another 10 days. If I can't get any information in 10 days, I will go down and have a look. Luli made up his mind. He was almost fully recovered. However, due to the excessive loss of life energy, he still looked pale and sickly. He was also afraid of the cold, but there was nothing he could do. Life energy could not be replenished in a short time. It would take several years, or unless he took some special pellets of the second plane. As for Luli's abilities and soul, it didn't affect him too much. Of course, he could not take such pellets again. If his life energy was damaged again, nobody would be able to save him. Boom, boom, boom. The mountain flew on with tens of thousands of thunderbolts chasing after them. Luli and Little White were absorbing thunderbolts all the time. During these months, Luli felt his body had grown stronger. But by how much, he didn't know. That being said, he believed average supreme warriors in the divinity wouldn't be able to kill him even if they just stood there and let them kill them. Little White had been sleeping. Was it because it had absorbed too much energy of thunderbolts and needed to digest? Or was it because it hadn't woken up recently? Time moved on. Soon, 9 days had passed. When Luli was ready to go down the next day, the jade talisman on his waist suddenly cracked. They are here. A glint of coldness rose in Luli's eyes. He was relieved. The broken jade talisman meant that warriors of the Hall of Black Flames had come down and that Ling Qingyin and the others were fine. As long as they were fine, Luli was confident that he could deal with the Hall of Black Flames. Let's go down. Without any hesitation, Luli flew the mountain downward. A moment later, he stopped and looked at Little White that was sleeping soundly on the mountain. Little White was strong enough to deal with average supreme warriors in the divinity. That being said, Luli could kill average supreme warriors in the divinity easily. It was pointless for Little White to tag along. This time, there were experts from the Black Flame Hall. It would be dangerous for Xiao Bai to follow them. Thus, it was better for Xiao Bai to cultivate here. Little White. Luli woke up Little White decisively. Little White was only sleeping, not unconscious. Soon, it woke up and made some noise. Xiao Bai, I need to go down and do something. Luli pointed down and said, I will be gone for a year at most. You can go down there and cultivate here. It is safe here. Don't run around and wait for me to come back for you. Squeak, squeak, Little White shook its head and grabbed Luli with its paws. It was clear that it wanted to go down with Luli. But Luli said with determination, I will need your help in a while. You are still weak. Cultivate here for a while. When you are stronger, you can help me. Do you understand? Little White was intelligent. It could understand Luli's words. This time, Little White said nothing, but its eyes were filled with reluctance. It waved its paws and screamed. Luli could not understand Little White, but he had a general idea. Luli said with a smile, Don't worry. I will not leave you behind. As long as you don't run around, I will come and find you. Your task now is to cultivate here. The stronger you are, the better. Then you can help me kill my enemies. Do you understand? Squeak, squeak, Little White nodded. Luli did not hesitate any longer. He patted Little White's head, put away the mountain, and flew down. Little White screamed and wanted to follow Luli, but it stopped in the end. Luli slowed down a bit when he was in the trials of wind and fire. That being said, he didn't feel much pressure, so he sped up at once. After he rushed down, Luli took a healing pellet. When the efficacy of the pellet spread, he found that the efficacy was greatly reduced. The healing pellet could only heal superficial wounds. Even so, it was limited. It seemed that the damage to his life force had a great impact on his body. He must be careful not to get injured, or it would be difficult for him to recover. Luli flew down quickly. Down below was a barren mountain, uninhabited. The population of the divinity was decreasing. It was unlikely that he would run into anyone in a barren mountain like this. Luli used the cloaking armor, picked a random direction, and snuck in. In the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, he found a city. It was a small city that had been damaged in the past. It had not been completely repaired. It seemed to be in a dilapidated state. The city was empty. Luli sensed that there were only thousands of people in the city. Sunyin City? Luli took out a map to check. Soon, he was sure of his location. He had reached the central part of the divinity. He was 70 or 80 prefectures away from the space-time city and more than 100 prefectures away from the city of divinity. Let me get some information first. Luli snuck into the city. The most powerful ones in the city were 3 mighty warriors. They could not find him. Luli hid near a tavern and eavesdropped on the conversations in the tavern, hoping to glean some useful information. A moment later, Luli was disappointed. He did not know if it was because the information in this small city was blocked or that the warriors of the Hall of Black Flame had blocked the information. Nobody was talking about the Hall of Black Flame. I think they will block the information. Luli thought about it. Back when the Slayer was killed, there was no information. What happened at the second plane was something that only the most powerful warriors were qualified to know. It was the same this time. The news that warriors of the Hall of Black Flame had come to the mortal world would be blocked. Let's go. Luli left the city and flew across the void. He wanted to go to a place near the space-time city. He had to be there either to gather information or to attack. Luli flew across the void several times without running into anyone. Once, he was near a city, but no one in the city was alerted. It was not hard to imagine how much the population of the divinity had dropped. 2.5 days later, Luli arrived at a prefecture near the space-time office. He went into a small city, trying to get some information. Unexpectedly, he ran into an acquaintance, Jian Shilai. Jian Shilai was a super mighty warrior in the divinity. He was hiding in the city as well, and he could see through the cloaking armor. Jian Shilai was shocked to see Luli in the city. Luli winked at him and left the city quietly. Jian Shilai followed him in a hurry. In a valley, Luli stopped. Jian Shilai rushed over, dropped to his knees, and said, "Young Master Lu, young Master, how come you are here? The warriors of the Hall of Black Flame have gone to the land of Yuyan. Without you here, young lady and Prince of Yan are in danger." Luli did not panic. He asked leisurely, "How long have they been gone?" Jian Shilai answered, 5 days. Chapter 1764. Jian Shilai lurked here in order to gather information about the space-time manor. Though many of them had died last time and most of the spies were killed, there were still a few spies lurking in the space-time city. These 2 or 3 spies were very well hidden, and one of them was even a member of the Zhuqiu clan. Therefore, it was very easy to obtain general intelligence from the West. The teleportation altar within the time-space city took 2 months to complete. The people from the Black Flame Hall had descended. There were 2 of them, and they should be Second Tribulation heavenly gods. However, the traitor had not seen the 2 of them, so the news had indeed been sealed. At this moment, even the space-time city was under martial law. No one could leave to prevent the news from leaking out. The 2 exalted gods left 5 days ago, together with Zhuqiu Lu and the 9 supreme martial artists from the divine realm. They were the 9 people who escaped last time. They split into 2 groups and left. The 2 gods from the Black Flame Hall disguised themselves as experts of the divine world and teleported away with Zhuqiu Lu. They should have arrived at the north of the divine world by now. In other words, there isn't a single supremacy realm deity in the space-time city? Luli asked after hearing Jian Shilai's words. Jian Shilai nodded and said, "Yes." According to the information provided by the spy, the elders of the space-time office are all in the city. The space-time mansion only has 1 supreme from the deity world, and that is Zhuqiu Lu. She has already left. Luli asked after a moment of silence, "How many scouts do you have at your disposal?" "Not much." West said, "Some time ago, in order to destroy the space-time office's teleportation altar and delay the Black Flame Hall's emissary from descending, more than half of them died. Recently, Miss has transferred some people to me, but those people haven't been completely settled and haven't gone into hiding. Right now, I can only use a few dozen scouts." "Investigate." Luli waved his hand and said, "Check the prefectures near the space-time city, especially in the city. Make sure there are no powerful warriors hiding. You can think of a way to get people to stir up some trouble. If there are experts hiding inside, it will be easy to sense them." "All right." For Jian Shilai, Luli's order was no different from Pan Yuqin's. He carried it out without asking anything. Luli made a deal with him and then set off toward the space-time city. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Luli wasn't as stupid as he used to be. He wouldn't just go straight to the door. Anyway, it would take some time for Zhuoqilu and the others to go to the land of Yuyin. As long as he was sure that there were no experts hiding in the city, he would immediately take action. By then, Zhuoqilu and the others would have to turn back. Their target was Luli. Since Luli had gone to the divinity, they would hunt him down first. The Shanqing Palace was the palace, so the sect to kill him. The Black Hall was the palace city. 2. Yin Palace to go after palace to lead to sect. Were sword to marshal would not only off the palace, but would in realm, but also to them too. To palace warriors would lead to sects and out. What was more, without their help, the two powerful warriors of the Hall of Black Flames would not be able to find Luli in the divinity. The Sky City would be in, to find a bee, and outside, in town, Li Jian's city, the sea. This city was built 30 miles away from the original city of space-time. It was a brand new city. Luli could see some sentries nearby. He could also see warriors patrolling outside the city. The security was tight. Luli didn't act rashly. He didn't capture some scouts to get information, which would alert people in the city. He did not act recklessly, nor did he capture a few hidden sentries to gather information. That would easily alarm the people in the city. Luli checked an area with a radius of 300,000 miles around the space-time city, but found nothing unusual. He also found a scout sent by Jian Shilai. The scout was hiding in a nearby mountain, waiting for the report from the city of Jian Shilai. At night, Jian Shilai came. He reported, "Young master, call me lord. It feels awkward to call me young master." Luli was dozens of years old. He felt young master was more like someone in his teens or 20s. Jian Shilai smiled awkwardly and said, "Lord, you are less than 100 years old. You are a young man in the divinity. It is normal to call you young master. But if you don't like it, I will change the way I address you. I have made arrangements in the space-time city. I will send you a message at midnight." Okay. Luli didn't ask about Jian Shilai's arrangements. He had always been the right-hand man of Pan Yuqin. He was in charge of the intelligence in the divinity. He had never caused any trouble, which was a testament to his capability. Luli and Jian Shilai waited quietly. Jian Shilai had been looking in the direction of the space-time city. They were only 300 miles away from the city. The moon was bright tonight. They could vaguely see the huge city in the distance. "They are here," Jian Shilai shouted in surprise at midnight. Luli opened his eyes and looked over. He could vaguely see a glow in the direction of the space-time city. It seemed that there was a big fire. Whoosh! A moment later, a signal detonator flew up and exploded in midair, illuminating half of the sky like fireworks. Jian Shilai was delighted. He nodded to Luli and said, "The scouts in the city are sure that there are no supreme warriors in the divinity hiding in the city." Okay. Luli was relieved. His eyes flickered for a while before he ordered, "You ask the scouts to monitor the situation nearby. Release the signal detonator to warn us if something happens. I will go to the space-time city." Okay. Jian Shilai accepted the order. Then, he remembered something and said, "Lord, go ahead and kill as you like. Our people in the city should have all died. The people in the city are from the space-time office." Okay. Luli flew up. His chi and energy spread out as he dashed toward the city without any scruples. Bang! 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 Luli's appearance alerted many hidden sentries. Countless warning flares were shot into the sky. The city of space-time came to their senses at once. Outside the city, a sky blue light shield rose up and covered the city. Luli sneered. In a blink of an eye, he had arrived at the city of space-time. He used psychic power to check the city. He found that several castles in the city were on fire. The city was in chaos. "Look, who is that? How come he looks like Luli? I can't be wrong. It is Luli. Luli is here." Send a message to the chief. Now. Seeing a white-haired young man floating in the sky, People in the city were stirred up. Luli had released all of his chi and energy. His small body gave people the feeling that he was a huge dragon, more horrifying than a king-rank wild beast. His chi and energy were as strong as a mountain, suffocating many people in the city. The patriarchs of the space-time office were panicking. Zhuo had gone to the land of Yuyan, and so had the two messengers of the Hall of Black Flame. They had thought that it wouldn't be long before they received the news that Luli was killed. Little did they expect that Luli would come to them in just a few days. Buzzing, a special communication formation lit up. Clearly, it was a message to Zhuo. Luli had not taken any actions since he arrived. He was waiting for the message. He wanted Zhuo and the others to come back. Blood Fairy, Luli shouted. The immortal's body appeared in the void nearby. From the immortal's body, a blood-red vine came out and pierced into the ground. It had not been long since the space-time office was built. The formation here must not be strong. Blood Fairy could crack it easily. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, Blood Fairy said, "Master, this formation is nothing special. Do you want to crack it?" Luli took out the frigid edge saber. He was filled with murderous intent. "Crack it." Buzzing. Chapter 1765. The city is breached. The patriarchs of the space-time office were shocked and confused. They had thought that the shield could last for a day or two. After all, the formation was built by a powerful warrior from the craftsman's sect. They didn't expect that the shield could be breached so quickly. There were over 100,000 warriors in the city, some mighty warriors from the divinity and dozens of super mighty warriors. These were the last forces of the space-time office. This force was not bad, but none of them had the intention to fight back against Luli. This was Luli they were talking about. He single-handedly suppressed the demon army, single-handedly killed Emperor Yoshing, single-handedly reversed the entire situation, and single-handedly turned the tide. Even if all the supreme warriors of the divinity were here, none of them would have the courage to do anything to Luli, let alone them. Plop. One of the patriarchs reacted quickly. He dropped to his knees, prostrated himself, and shouted, "Lord Lu, please spare my life." Seeing a patriarch on his knees, some warriors came back to their senses. They dropped to their knees in fear and shouted, "Lord, please spare our lives." When Zhuo and the supreme warriors of the divinity went to the north for the first time, many were already in a state of panic. They wondered what they should do if Luli came one day. Now that the patriarch had set an example, they felt they were facing a towering mountain when facing Luli. They could not summon any will to fight. They had to drop to their knees and beg for mercy. Of course, many did not, especially the patriarchs. They had never had a good impression of Luli. He had killed Zhuo and Zhuo. They had already regarded Luli as their mortal enemy. When Luli rose to power, they were worried that Luli would try to take over the space-time office. A patriarch bit his teeth and shouted, "Luli, what are you doing? If you dare to do anything, you will become the mortal enemy of the space-time office. We are on the same side as the other 3 transcendent god organizations. If you become enemies with the space-time mansion, you will become enemies with the other 4 transcendent god organizations. You will become enemies with the major organizations behind us." Ha ha ha. Luli laughed with mockery. He glared at the patriarchs coldly and said, "Go against us? Did your brain get kicked by a donkey? When Zhuo brought 10 exalts from the god realm to the land of Yuyan, we were already dead. Didn't I kill your Zhuo? Don't you know what your manor lord is doing right now? Don't insult our intelligence." Buzz, as soon as Luli finished his words, there was a flash of light from one of the castles. Then, the shield over there exploded as well. Luli used psychic power to check and found a large and complicated altar inside. He knew it was a teleportation altar connected to the second heaven. Rip! Luli waved his chilling blade casually. A ray of blood-red sword light whooshed out and landed on the castle. The castle exploded, and naturally, the altar inside was destroyed. Those who wished to surrender immediately head to the northern part of the city. I will only give you 10 breaths of time. Do not run around in the northern part of the city, or you will be killed without mercy, Luli said with strong killing intent. The two patriarchs on their knees flew toward the north of the city without hesitation. The kneeling soldiers also flew towards the north of the city. There were over 100,000 people in the city. 40 or 50,000 had flown away, and 7 or 8 super mighty warriors from the divinity had run away. The others were hesitating. The warriors, in particular, wanted to go to the north of the city. However, since the patriarchs, under their direct command, did not flee, they did not dare to move. Time is up. Go to hell. Luli said to himself that he had 10 breaths of time. He would not give them another chance. The wicked bead glowed as many worms of the void whooshed out. Luli did not even bother to deal with a bunch of low-level warriors. Luli, we will kill you. Seeing the worms of the void whooshing down, the patriarchs were determined to die. They flew up and released all kinds of attacks. Several Xian energy dashed toward Luli. Luli had the time to dodge the attacks from the super mighty warriors in the divinity. However, he stood in midair and didn't move at all, allowing those attacks to land on his body. A few muffled sounds could be heard. Apart from a few tears on his robe, Luli didn't have any injuries on his body. He didn't even move an inch. The patriarchs wanted to strike again, but the worms of the void had come down and enveloped everyone in the city. Needless to say, the worms of the void were powerful. Even demons with strong bodies could be killed in an instant, not to mention the average immortals. Soon, the city turned into hell. The remaining 100,000 people rolled around with their heads in their hands. Soon, they stopped moving. Gradually, their heads disappeared, eaten by the worms of the void. The super mighty warriors and patriarchs from the divinity could only hold on for a few breaths before they passed away. In less than the time for half an incense stick to burn, the 100,000 people in the city had become headless corpses, demon of insects. Many people outside shouted. The tens of thousands of people were pale. They used psychic power to check the city. Their eyes were filled with terror. Previously, when Luli used the worms of the void to deal with demons, they did not feel anything. Instead, they were excited. But now, the worms of the void were dealing with them. Many people who were alive a moment ago, the higher-ups of the space-time office that they had been in awe of, had become headless corpses in the blink of an eye. It was not hard to imagine how shocked they were. The tens of thousands of people stayed at the north of the city. None dared to run away. Luli's cruel means had stunned them all. They were slow. How could they run away from the worms of the void? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. When everyone was killed, Luli released many divine energy attacks to destroy the buildings in the city. The city had just been built. There were only warriors here. There were no civilians, women, or children. Luli was not worried about friendly fire. Soon, the city was reduced to ruins. Making sure that none of the buildings in the city were intact, Luli slowly flew toward the north of the city. The 40 to 50,000 people dropped to their knees and prostrated on the ground, holding their breaths. Luli looked at them coldly. After the time for a few breaths, he said, I do not want you to surrender. As long as you swear an almighty oath to leave the space-time office from today on, I will spare your lives. The tens of thousands of people were in an uproar. They had been with the space-time office for many years, and they had a strong sense of belonging. By swearing an almighty oath, they would leave the space-time office completely. Who dared to go back to the space-time office at the risk of breaking the oath? Of course, some people swore at once. For them, staying alive was more important than anything else. They could join other forces after leaving the space-time office. They could even build their own forces. The divinity was a large place with many territories. It was a good chance. Those who swore, go to the left. Luli waved his hand. The hundreds that swore flew to the left at once. The others were panicking because Luli was releasing worms again. Those worms of the void were no different from messengers of death. There were more than 100,000 headless corpses in the space-time city. Soon, many swore to the left. Luli said nothing. He looked on coldly and continued to release worms of the void. The rest of the warriors were in a panic. Since they had chosen to surrender, they did not have much resistance to leaving the space-time office. What was more, Luli was so powerful. What could he gain by staying in the space-time office? Could Zhuoqiu and those from the Hall of Black Flame really kill him? After the time for one incense stick to burn, everyone swore an almighty oath. Luli nodded. He put away the worms of the void and said, "Today, I will spare your lives. Send a message for me. Zhuoqiu is going against the law, and I will kill her. If the Hall of Black Flame wants to make an enemy out of me, I will fight to the death." Chapter 1766. Northern Divinity, Green Willow Prefecture. Because this prefecture was in the north of the divinity, it moved quickly when the demons invaded. Therefore, the major families in this prefecture were not affected too much. After the demons were pacified, many people migrated here. Many cities in this prefecture regained some vitality. In Green Willow City, 2 people from the Hall of Black Flame sat on the main seats. Zhuoqiu and the 9 supreme warriors from the divinity sat on the left and right. Below them were the chief of Green Willow Prefecture and the 2 family patriarchs of this prefecture. After teleporting for a few days, Zhuoqiu happened to know the chief of Green Willow Prefecture. She decided to rest here for a day and entertain the 2 gods. A group of beautiful girls were dancing in the hall. They were the dancers raised by the chief himself. Although they were not the most beautiful, they knew how to seduce men. Every frown and smile was full of temptation, especially when they swayed their slim waists and plump buttocks. The thin veil on their bodies was faintly discernible, giving people a strong visual impact. "Gods, a toast to you." Zhuoqiu's face was flushed as she repeatedly toasted. One of the 2 gods was not young, while the other was only 100 or 200 years old. They looked at the 2 dancers in the middle with envy. Zhuoqiu secretly gave the chief a hint. The 2 dancers floated to the young god and knelt on the ground to serve him. The young god did not refuse and even reached out to touch the waists of the 2 dancers. The older god did not pay much attention to this. He drank in silence and ignored the others. He was very arrogant. "Gods, let's rest here for a night. Tomorrow, we will teleport again and go to Yuyan Land. What do you think?" Zhuoqiu toasted again and added, "I have mobilized all the top scouts to lurk in the land of Yuyan Pass. We will soon be able to track Lu Li's whereabouts. At that time, it will be up to the 2 sirs to show their might." The young god smiled and put his hands under the 2 dancers' dresses. He said carelessly, "He is just a little bastard. I can kill him for you." "Of course. Young Master Yin is very powerful. Luli is like a firefly compared to you." Zhuoqiu flattered him and then began to toast again. He looked at the older great god and said, "My lord, why don't I arrange for 2 maids to warm your feet tonight?" "No need," the old man said coldly. "Let's get down to business first." Since the old man didn't like it, Zhuoqiu didn't force him. He had been quite depressed recently, so he waved his hand and called 2 dancers over, preparing to indulge himself tonight. Come, let me toast to the 2 exalted gods. Luli, that bastard, has been suppressing us for too long. Now that we have 2 gods to stand up for us, we can put our minds at ease." "Of course. Who is Luli?" "A little bastard who ascended from the lower realm, relying on some luck, actually wants to unify the immortal world. Is the immortal world something that someone like him can unify? Haha. After we kill Luli, we will destroy the land of Yuyan. I will make that bitch Ling Qinya kneel in front of me and beg for mercy. Luli killed our people. When he is dead, I will go to the lower realm and wipe out his entire family." The more they drank, the more presumptuous they became. They had embarked on the path of fighting against Luli. There was no turning back now. They had to kill Luli, or else they would all be dead. Whoosh! A super mighty warrior of the divinity suddenly walked in. He looked awful. He strode towards Zhuoqiu, which caught many people's attention. Young Master Yin pulled a long face. He was displeased. How come Zhuoqiu's men were so incompetent? Barging in like this ruined everyone's mood. Brother Six, what is it? Zhuoqiu Lu was unhappy as well. She asked in a reproachful tone. Brother Six walked over to Zhuoqiu Lu and whispered, I have just received 2 pieces of news. Luli has come to the space-time city and destroyed our city. Apart from tens of thousands of people who escaped from the space-time office, the rest were all killed. What? Zhuoqiu Lu dropped the glass in her hand. She stood up in rage and shouted, Luli, you have gone too far. You have gone too far. They looked at each other in confusion. What had Luli done to make Zhuoqiu Lu so angry? Can it be? A supreme warrior came to his senses and asked, Chief, has Luli gone to the divinity? Yes, Zhuoqiu Lu said, biting her teeth. I have just received news that Luli has gone to the space-time city and killed most of them. Hiss, hiss, there was a gasp in the room. Chief of the Green Willow office was taken aback. He had entertained Zhuoqiu Lu and the others today. Would Luli be enraged and massacre the city? Luli was not only cruel to demons, but also to humans. Back in the days, he would massacre cities at the slightest provocation. He was cruel and merciless to all his enemies. He has gone to the space-time city. The old god looked at Zhuoqiu Lu with dissatisfaction and said, How did you do your intelligence work? You just found out now that someone has killed your way to the rear. Lord, it is my fault. Zhuoqiu Lu suppressed his anger and cupped his fists. He was not sad that the city had been massacred. Most of his people had been killed by demons. Some of them were still in the secret realm. The more than 100,000 people were his subordinates. There were not many of his people. Zhuoqiu Lu felt bitter. How'd he do intelligence work? Even when the space-time office was in its prime, it would not be easy to find Luli, not to mention that he had no one to turn to now. Back in the days, when the 4 forces were hunting Luli all over the world, Luli could come and go as he pleased in the divinity. Zhuoqiu Lu forced himself to calm down. After some thoughts, he cupped his fists and said, Lords, Luli is very good at hiding. It will be difficult to find him. How about we kill our way to the land of Yin? As long as we attack the king of Yin, Luli will come to our rescue. The other supreme warriors in the divinity were embarrassed by Zhuoqiu Lu's words. The space-time city had been destroyed. Zhuoqiu Lu was not afraid of those who had nothing to lose, but they were. Who could stop Luli if he were to attack their families? Once Luli released the worms of the void, it would be the time for 1 or 2 incense sticks to burn. Therefore, the Grand Master of the Hall of Purgatory said at once, Since Luli has come to the divinity, he must want to fight with us. I think we should fight him in the divinity. We don't have to go to the land of Yin. The older one waved his hand and said, Let's go back to the divinity. As long as we can locate Luli, he will die for sure. Sure. Young Master Yin nodded and said, The land of Yin belongs to the Shangqing Palace. It is not appropriate for us to go there alone. Since Luli has come to the divinity, it will be easy. Zhuoqiu Lu was a bit anxious. She said, Luli can fly across the void, and his hiding skills are very good. It'll be hard to find him. That's you. Chapter 1767. Did you know? The city of time-space was massacred. I heard about it. More than 100,000 people in the city were slaughtered and their heads were bitten off. The corpses are piled up all over the city. The stench can be smelled from miles away. Well, an uncle of mine smelled it when he passed by. Many people wanted to move into the newly built city of time-space, but it was destroyed and turned into a dead city. Luli is so cruel. He massacred a city? He killed more than 100,000 people. There are not many people in the divinity now. If he goes on like this, the entire divinity will be wiped out. What do you know? If Zhuoqiu Lu hadn't provoked Lord Lu, would Lord Lu kill people? Zhuoqiu Lu has just defeated the demon, but she burned the bridge after crossing it. Without Lord Lu, the divinity would have been destroyed a long time ago. Zhuoqiu Lu is digging her own grave. Yes, if it weren't for Lord Lu, we would all be dead. Lord Lu's authority is inviolable. Zhuoqiu Lu thought the 4 forces were still the dominators of the divinity, so she offended Lord Lu. She deserved to be massacred. Should stop talking. If the scouts from the four supreme forces find out about this, we'll all die. This was a conversation in a tavern in a small town, and it was the topic of discussion in almost all the cities in the divinity. Though there were fewer people in the divinity, it was impossible to suppress such an important piece of news. Soon, the news spread across the divinity. Some were frightened, some cursed, and some applauded. Most of the people applauded, hoping that Lu Li could overthrow the four forces. Once he did so, it would mean countless opportunities for him to rise to the top. Have they gone back? Lu Li was living in a small town leisurely. Jian Shilai sat across from him. He nodded and said, I have found out. They have come back by the teleportation formation. That's good. Lu Li was relieved. If the people of the Black Flame Hall brought Zhua Qilu and the others to the land of Yuyin, the people of the Black Flame Hall did not need to do anything. As long as Zhua Qilu made a move, Ling Qingyin would not be able to withstand it. At that time, he would be in a passive position. He had already sent a message to Ling Qingyin and the others, asking them to hide and to relocate their families. Once this matter was completely resolved, he would let them out. Lu Li had no idea how to deal with this. He was not afraid of the two warriors of the Black Flame Hall, but killing them like this would attract more powerful warriors of the Black Flame Hall to come to the mortal world. If a third tribulation heavenly god came, what could he use to block him? Lu Li's ideal ending was to kill Zhua Qiulu and negotiate with the Hall of Black Flame. In this way, he could become the overlord of the god world without any worries. Everything would be perfect. Let's wait until they return to the time-space city. Let's think of a way to talk to them first. Lu Li thought about it for a while. Then, he waved his hand and said, place the scouts Yuqin assigned to you as soon as possible. I want all the cities in the divinity to have your scouts. I want to know everything about the divinity. Don't worry, my lord. Jian Shilai got up and said, the immortal realm is in a mess right now. The people of the demonic sea area, the West Ocean, and the South Ocean are coming back one after another. As such, it's easy to set up scouts here. I'll arrange it as soon as possible. Off you go. Lu Li waved his hand and said, let me know when Zhuqiu Lu and the others are coming back. Jian Shilai left. Lu Li sat in the tavern with his legs crossed by himself. While cultivating divine energy, he was thinking about what he should do next to make it perfect. Time flew by. Several days had passed. Zhuqiu Lu and the others teleported back to the space-time office. The space-time city was destroyed. Naturally, the teleportation formation was gone as well. They had to fly to the space-time city. It took them more than half a day to arrive at the city. Before they got close to the city, they already smelled a disgusting odor, which made them want to vomit. Since such a big thing had happened in the city, those that came to the space-time city dared not to touch the scene. There were so many corpses, and it would be difficult for them to bury them all. Zhuqiu Lu and the others did not go into the city. They just used psychic power to check from afar. What they saw was awful. The city was full of corpses, and all of them had lost their heads. Blood flowed on the ground. The castles in the city were destroyed. The city had turned into hell. Whoosh, 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 many subordinates of the space-time office had come back. Over 1,000 warriors swarmed over. They all dropped to one knee to salute Zhuqiu Lu and the others. Where is Lu Li? Zhuqiu Lu's eyes were filled with killing intent. Her voice was hoarse. A super mighty patriarch in the divinity reported. According to the report that day, Lu Li flew away after he slaughtered the city. Bang! Zhuqiu Lu slapped the patriarch away. Zhuqiu Lu said angrily, I'm not asking you about that day. I am asking you where Lu Li is now. How do we know? That patriarch was dumbfounded. Lu Li came and went without a trace. How could they know where he was? Not to mention that there were few people in the space-time office now. Even at its peak, they could not find Lu Li. Then what are you waiting for? Get everyone to search for him. Send out my order. Ask all forces in the divinity to search for Lu Li. Zhuqiu Lu waved her hand angrily. Then, she turned to Grandmaster of the Hall of Vitality, Chief of Cabinet of Mystery, and Great Patriarch of the Craftsman's Sect, and said, please send a message back as well. Get everyone to search for Lu Li. Don't bother. Right at that moment, someone shouted from the distance. A warrior flew over. They checked with psychic power, only to find that it was just an average immortal. That immortal calmly flew over to the group of important figures. He stopped 30 miles away from them and said, "I am here to deliver a message under the orders of my master." "Who is your master?" the patriarch of the space-time office asked, filled with killing intent. "Luli," the immortal answered with pride. "My master said that in 5 days at the peak of the Black Wind Mountain, he wants to have a talk with an immortal of the Hall of Black Flame. I wonder if the immortal of the Hall of Black Flame has the courage to go there alone?" An immortal? Attending the meeting alone? Zhuqiu Lu and the others were taken aback. Was Luli trying to make peace with the Hall of Black Flame? If he was willing to join the Black Flame Hall, it was very likely that he would become the spokesperson of the Black Flame Hall in the God Realm, and Zhuqiu Lu would be heartlessly abandoned. The two from the Black Flame Hall were in disguise. They did not want ordinary people to know their identities. The two of them looked at each other, and the old god nodded slightly. Young Master Yin thought about it and nodded to Zhuqiu Lu. Zhuqiu Lu made up her mind and said, "Go back and tell Lu Li that it is his wish." That immortal swaggered away. Those from the space-time office were gnashing their teeth. That being said, this immortal was a messenger, and he had to bring a message back to Lu Li. Who dared to kill him? The two exalted gods exchanged a look, and Zhuqiu Lu waved her hand to dismiss her subordinates. After they left, Zhuqiu Lu asked anxiously, "Exalted gods, are you really going to see him alone? Don't overthink it." The old exalted god said coldly, "I can kill him the moment I see him. I won't talk to him. We wanted to use our secret technique to track him, but we didn't expect him to come to us. So we won't be polite." "Okay." Zhuqiu Lu was overjoyed. She cupped her fists and said, "Then we will count on you, exalted god. Don't let Lu Li get away this time. He is too good at hiding." "I said it." Chapter 1768. The Black Wind Mountain was not far away from the Spacetime City. It was in a nearby prefecture. It would only take 2 hours to teleport to the Black Wind Mountain, or a day for supreme warriors in the divinity. Lu Li said he would meet in 5 days. The two gods were not in a hurry. Zhuqiu Lu wanted to send someone to the Black Wind Mountain to have a look, but the two gods told them not to do so. If they scared Lu Li away, it would be superfluous. For the two gods, as long as they could meet Lu Li, they were confident that they could kill him. They were not being arrogant. They were just confident as powerful warriors of a higher universe. Lu Li was powerful enough to kill Yu Xing, a second tribulation god, but that was under the condition that he had taken elixirs. It was a fact that Lu Li had just become a supreme warrior in the divinity. Warriors at the second heaven had powerful skills and skills that could not be found in the divinity. It was like a warrior in the mortal world had become an immortal. But would the immortals in the divinity be afraid? Not to mention that the two gods were from super forces at the second heaven. As such, the two gods believed that if either of them were to meet Lu Li, they would be able to kill him easily. Since that was the case, why did he need to go and explore the Black Wind Mountain? As for whether Lu Li would set up an ambush there, the two gods didn't even think about it. The divinity had few powerful warriors. Even if Lu Li brought Ling Qingyin and the others or set up some formations, it would not be a threat to the two gods. Zhuqiu Lu settled them in a nearby town and then gathered people to collect the bodies and deal with the aftermath. "Uncle Li, should I go in 5 days?" In the castle of the small city, young Master Yin said as he drank leisurely. The older god frowned and said, "I think it is safer for me to go. Your father told me to take care of you before we went down to the mortal world." "Huh. Young Master Yin sneered. "Uncle Li, are you underestimating me or overestimating that Lu Li? I am a second tribulation god after all. What is more, I am wearing the Great Cyan armor, which is a piece of chaos treasure. Do you think Lu Li can crack it?" "Yes," Uncle Li answered but didn't say anything. He was not worried about young Master Yin. He was just worried that Uncle Li was too young to know how to handle things. If Lu Li escaped, Uncle Li would be in trouble. "Uncle Li," young Master Yin continued to persuade him. The reason why I came with you this time is because Father wants me to gain more experience. Right now, Lu Li is a very good opponent. Don't worry, I won't let him escape. Furthermore, you can wait nearby. If he wants to escape, I will inform you immediately. All right. Uncle Li finally agreed. He nodded and said, then you go. I'll hide nearby. If anything goes wrong, send me a message. Also, do not be bewitched by his words. Find a chance to kill him. The space-time prefecture has been with us for so many years. There is no need to change the divine realm's representative. All right, young Master Yin agreed and happily stood up. Uncle Li, you rest first. I'm going out for a stroll. There seems to be a pretty good beauty in the city. Uncle Li frowned and scanned the area with his divine will. He found a beautiful woman in a nearby castle. She was very young and seemed to be the young lady of the city lord's family. After a brief pondering, he advised, you can play, but don't mess around. Otherwise, it will affect the reputation of the Black Flame Hall. Ha ha ha. While walking out, young Master Yin said, Uncle Li, you worry too much. Given my status, if I want a woman, more than half of the forces in the divinity will deliver themselves to me. Why do I have to force them? Uncle Li stopped using psychic power after young Master Yin left. After a while, he murmured, Lu Li, sorry. Don't blame us. You can only blame yourself for being born at the wrong time and going against the Black Flame Hall. If we don't kill you, how can the Black Flame Hall raise our heads in the second heaven? 5 days passed in a blink of an eye. Young Master Yin and Uncle Li arrived early. Zhuoqilu and the 9 supreme warriors from the divinity were here as well. Apart from young Master Yin, the others were hiding in a small city 30,000 miles away. For a group of supreme warriors from the divinity, a distance of 30,000 miles would only take the time for half an incense stick to burn. Young Master Yin was wearing a relic armor. Uncle Li was not worried that Lu Li could kill him. Therefore, they were hiding here so that Lu Li would not be alarmed and they could fly away in advance. Young Master Yin swaggered toward the Black Wind Mountain on his own. He was in full swing, as if he was afraid that others would not know he was here. He was doing this for a reason. He was trying to tell Lu Li that he was here alone. He was here to negotiate. At the peak of the Black Wind Mountain, Lu Li sat by a stone table which he carved out with a weapon. He made tea and sipped it leisurely. He was the only one on the Black Wind Mountain. He didn't build any formations of destruction or entrapment, but just to be on the safe side, he built 2 one-way teleportation formations. Whoosh, after the time for half an incense stick to burn, a man came from the foot of the mountain. That man went up the mountain quickly like a ghost. Soon, he was behind Lu Li. He cupped his fists and said, Lord, a mysterious, powerful warrior is approaching. He will arrive in the time for 1 incense stick to burn. There is a group of powerful warriors in a small city 30,000 miles to the west. I think they are the other supreme immortal and Zhuoqilu. Lu Li didn't make any arrangements, but it didn't mean that he would leave everything unattended. At the very least, he had to be in control of the situation so that he would not be tricked. 30,000 miles. Lu Li nodded. He waved his hand and said, Okay, off you go. Tell our brothers nearby to leave as well. Retreated? Jian Shalai asked with furrowed brows. Why don't we leave after the matter is settled? It was needless to say how important Lu Li was to the land of Yuyan Pass. Jian Shalai wanted to keep an eye on the situation nearby, so that he could inform Lu Li as soon as possible if something special happened. No need. Lu Li waved his hand determinedly and said, If things go wrong, I will retreat immediately. In a battle of this level, even if you find out something is wrong, it will be too late. If you stay, you'll be easily killed by Zhuoqilu and the others. There are very few scouts in the God Realm now, so don't make unnecessary sacrifices. All right. Jian Shalai left after receiving the order. Lu Li kept on making tea and drinking it leisurely, waiting quietly for the swordsman of the Black Flame Hall to come. Whoosh, after the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, a whistling sound came from the distant sky. A person was approaching at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the peak of Black Wind Mountain. Young Master Yin was wearing a white robe. His bearing was extraordinary. He had locked on a Lu Li with psychic power, and he had seen Lu Li's portrait. But he didn't make a move right away. Instead, he landed hundreds of feet in front of Lu Li and asked, "You are Lu Li? I'm Yin Jun from the Black Flame Palace." "You are young." Lu Li glanced over and sensed this person's energy. He stood up, cupped his fists, and said, "Young Master Yin, do you have the guts to come over and have a cup of tea? Let's talk." Young Master Yin used psychic power to check the surroundings. After making sure that there were no traps nearby, he turned to Lu Li and said, "What is there to talk about?" "The space-time office is a dog raised by the Black Flame Hall. Now that you have beaten up our dog, you must be prepared to infuriate the owner. Don't say that the Black Flame Hall is unreasonable. I will give you 3 chances to say something. If you cannot convince me, I will have to kill you." Ha ha ha. Chapter 1769. Lu Li's arrogant words did not enrage young Master Yin. As far as young Master Yin was concerned, Lu Li was like an ant, not at the same level as him. A minion was yelling at him, and he was going to yell back. Wouldn't that be beneath him? Young Master Yin didn't make a move right away. He introduced himself and gave Lu Li a chance to say 3 words. This was because of his pride. Young Master Yin's tone was not arrogant, but deep down, he was condescending. He looked at Lu Li as if he were an ant. With that said, Lu Li said with a light smile, "First, you have 2 more words. You are so arrogant." Lu Li felt ignored and despised, but he didn't fly into a rage. After a moment of silence, he cut to the chase. "Space-time office and I have been enemies for a long time. It cannot be resolved. So, Zhuqiulu must die. After I kill Zhuqiulu, you can support another force to ascend, and I will not target you again. I will not unify the divinity. All I want is a peaceful life. What do you say?" Lu Li's meaning was clear. He would not fight for territory and interests with the Dark Flame Hall. As long as the Dark Flame Hall gave up on Zhuqiulu, he would not make an enemy of them. Ha ha. Young Master Yin sneered as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. This time, he didn't say another word. Instead, he stared at Lu Li and said, "Who do you think you are? Do you really think you are somebody? Who are you to negotiate with us? You are no different from an ant to us. You beat our dog, and now you want to talk terms with us? Do you think you are worthy?" Young Master Yan's words were harsh, but Lu Li was not angry. The second heaven was 1 level higher than the divinity. It was understandable that people there would think they were superior. Lu Li shrugged and said, "So, there is nothing to talk about. You think I am here to talk to you?" Young Master Yin sneered and said directly, "I am here to kill you. My dog is useless, but it is not to be bullied. So go to hell." Buzzing. One of young Master Yan's hands suddenly glowed. He waved to the void and shouted, "Wind!" As soon as the hand was raised, the weather changed. Wind from all sides came over and then whooshed toward Lu Li. The wind didn't blow directly. Instead, it rolled towards Lu Li in a strange arc. At that moment, Lu Li felt like he was tied down by countless threads. He couldn't move his body at all. What true intent is this? What a freak. Lu Li's expressions became solemn. Young Master Yin moved so fast that Lu Li didn't have the time to react. Young Master Yin once again reached out his hand and shouted, "Thunder!" Boom, 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 lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled above the 9 heavens. Bolts of lightning as thick as a human head whizzed down, shooting straight at young Master Yin. Lu Li wanted to release the worms of the void at this moment, but he didn't after he saw the thunderbolts. He just stared at young Master Yin coldly, watching his every move. Young Master Yin retracted his hands and quickly formed hand seals. All the lightning was attracted to his hands and started to swim around them. Furthermore, the lightning was compressed and turned into a huge lightning ball. Thunder explosion. Young Master Yin said the 2 words gently. He waved his hands, and a lightning ball the size of a human head whizzed over. The lightning ball was not big, but it gave Lu Li a sense of horror. Just now, at least dozens of lightning bolts had flown down, but they were compressed in such a small ball of lightning. If this ball of lightning were to enter a martial artist's body, no matter how strong a person's body was, they would be blown to pieces, right? Thunderbolts had a strong penetrating ability. Even if a warrior was wearing a strong armor, thunderbolts could still get in easily and then explode inside the warrior's body. This move was so powerful. No wonder he was a powerful warrior from the second heaven. Young Master Yin was so arrogant, and he had the right to be. That being said, Luli might be afraid of other kinds of attacks, but he was not afraid of thunderbolts. He had the thunder gathering formation in his body. Even the strongest thunderbolts could be transformed in his special energy. Swish, swish, the lightning ball hit Lu Li in an instant. The thunderbolts didn't explode right away. Instead, they went into Lu Li's body. Young Master Yin put on a cold smile. He stared at Lu Li's face, trying to see the fear on Lu Li's face before he died. What surprised young Master Yin was that Lu Li looked calm, and his eyes were as calm as water. It was as if he didn't feel the lightning ball entering his body. No matter how strong a person's mental quality was, they would be frightened when facing a life and death crisis. This was human nature. It was the same even for those who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Was Lu Li really not afraid of death? Or was it that his reaction was slower? Lu Li closed his eyes in the next second. What happened next shocked young Master Yin even more. Lu Li opened his eyes after one breath. He looked at young Master Yin with a smile and said, "Young Master Yin, why is the power of your killing move at the second heaven so weak? Or, are you just the most useless one at the second heaven?" Young Master Yan's pupils contracted. He couldn't believe it. His thunderstorm fundamental principle could be ranked in the top 100 even at the second heaven. Many second heaven tribulation gods feared this fundamental principle the most. But now, he couldn't hurt Lu Li one bit. He even felt that his attacks were absorbed by Lu Li. Thunder. Young Master Yin couldn't believe what he was seeing. He reached out to the void again. Countless thunderbolts whooshed down. This time, he made 100 thunderbolts into a lightning ball the size of 2 heads. Thunderstorm. Young Master Yin yelled. The lightning ball whooshed into Lu Li's body. But what happened next shocked young Master Yin. When such horrifying thunderbolts entered Lu Li's body, it was like a drop of water falling into the ocean. There was no ripple. Your attack is too weak. After the time for 2 breaths, Lu Li spoke again with a sarcastic smile on his face. Young Master Yin was confused. He stared at his hands with his eyes wide open. His mind was filled with shock. He couldn't figure it out. His killing move was so powerful that he could kill an average second heaven tribulation god at the second heaven easily. Now, he was attacking a puny warrior who was like an ant to him. Yet, he couldn't hurt Lu Li at all. Swish, young Master Yin was in a trance. He didn't control the wind anymore. Lu Li felt the wind was weaker. He shook his divine energy to free himself. Emperor of Slayers ghost cut. He swung his silver-edged sword and cut at young Master Yin. A ray of sword light came out. The ray of sword light made 3 turns in the air and landed on young Master Yin before he could react. Boom! With a muffled sound, young Master Yin was smashed away. This time, it was Lu Li's turn to be shocked. Apart from being smashed away for a couple of miles, young Master Yin didn't suffer any harm. His expressions didn't even change. Primordial treasure? Lu Li stared at the cyan-colored armor on young Master Yin. Just now, the armor released a surge of profound chi and energy. All the power of the Emperor of Slayer's ghost cut must have been blocked by the armor. Moo! Lu Li had no more hesitation. Young Master Yan's thunderstorm fundamental principle could not kill him, but he must have other moves. Since Lu Li could not kill him, staying here was pointless. Buzzing. Chapter 1770. Lu Li had been teleported away, but young Master Yin had not come back to his senses yet. He could not figure out why his powerful attack could not harm Lu Li at all. It was like he was an adult giant smashing at a kid with a mace, and the kid touched his head and said it didn't hurt at all. Young Master Yin came back to his senses after the time for 10 breaths after Lu Li was teleported away. But he didn't go after Lu Li. Since Lu Li had built a teleportation formation, and it was said that he could fly across the void, it was pointless to go after him now. Young Master Yin was smashed into a mountain, and he didn't fly out. He was wondering what had gone wrong. The attack was so powerful that even a small city more than 30,000 miles away could sense it. Young Master Yin attracted thunderbolts, and Lu Li's sword light was so dazzling that the space was trembling. Naturally, Uncle Li and Zhuo in the city sensed it. Whoosh! Uncle Li flew toward the Black Wind Mountain in a blur at once. Now that the fight had begun, he had no more concerns. He wanted to go as soon as possible. If Lu Li was dead, then it would be a happy ending. If not, he could send Lu Li to hell. Let's go! Zhuo and the others flew out in excitement. Young Master Yin and Lu Li were fighting. They could not miss such a grand occasion. If they had the chance, they would kill Lu Li as well. The distance of 30,000 miles was too short for them. In the time for dozens of breaths, they had arrived at the foot of the Black Wind Mountain. They checked with psychic power, but were stunned by what they found. They didn't find Lu Li, but young Master Yin, who was smashed into a mountain. Young Master Yin didn't seem to be injured, but he seemed to be in a daze. Clearly, he had suffered a great blow. Uncle Li's expressions changed. There was a hint of anger on his face. He had said twice before that they should not be compared with the useless ones in the divinity. They were elites of the second heaven. For warriors in the divinity, they were of a higher level. Unexpectedly, not only did young Master Yin fail to kill Lu Li, but he was in such a mess. Not only was he disgraced, but the Hall of Black Flames was also disgraced. He snorted heavily, and young Master Yin immediately came to his senses. His expression became unnatural, and he immediately flew out from the mountain. His eyes flickered, and he said bitterly, "Uncle Li, that kid is a little strange. My thunderstorm true intent is ineffective against him." What? This time, even Uncle Li was taken aback. He knew the power of Yin Zhen's thunderstorm fundamental principle. If a second tribulation god was hit by it, he or she would be severely injured, if not killed. However, it was ineffective against Lu Li. Zhuo and the others blinked their eyes in confusion. They didn't quite understand the thunderstorm fundamental meaning, but clearly it was a powerful one. They could understand if the thunderstorm fundamental meaning couldn't kill Lu Li, but what did it mean that it was ineffective against Lu Li? Could it be an innate, lightning attribute spirit body? Or perhaps his comprehension of the true meaning of lightning is very high. Uncle Li's eyes flickered for a moment. Apart from these two reasons, he couldn't think of any other. He turned to Zhuo and asked, "Is this Lu Li very accomplished in the fundamental principle of thunder and lightning?" "Never heard of it." Zhuo shook her head. Lu Li has two strongest moves, the Slayer's move and the Ghost King's cut. His most powerful move is the Ghost King's cut, which is the move that made 3 turns in the air. That is an innate lightning attribute spirit body. Uncle Li nodded. Then he waved his hand and said, "I don't care what kind of innate body he is. I will finish him myself." Zhuo said in a hurry, "Lu Li has run away. He will fly across the void. It will be difficult to catch up with him. I told you, don't take the divinity." Before Uncle Li could finish his words, he suddenly realized that he had said the same thing twice. Yin Zhen had just been humiliated. Saying anything more would be asking for humiliation. Waving his hand, Uncle Li said, "Yin Zhen, take the 9 astrolabe plate and go after Lu Li." "Okay." Young Master Yin came to his senses. His interspatial ring glowed as he took out a yellow artifact that looked like a compass. The artifact was dark yellow in color with many complicated patterns carved on it. There was a ladle-like object in the center. Young Master Yin closed his eyes and poured in divine energy. The compass glowed, and the ladle spun for 9 times. It stopped with one end pointing to the northwest and the other to the southeast. "Southeast, go after him." Uncle Li took a look. He was filled with killing intent. He flew away in a straight line, and young Master Yin went after him. Zhuoqilu and the others looked at each other and went after Uncle Li. Clearly, Uncle Li and young master Yin had slowed down for the sake of the others. Otherwise, Zhuoqilu and the others would not be able to catch up. When they caught up, Zhuoqilu could not hold back her curiosity. She asked, "Dear gods, what kind of artifact is this? Can it locate Lu Li?" "This is the 9 stars plate." Uncle Li explained after a pause. "As long as we can locate Lu Li's breath, we can keep tracking him. Just now, Yin Zhen has located Lu Li's breath. We can find him even if he runs to the ends of the world." "Good." Zhuoqilu and the others were overjoyed. What they were worried about the most was that the divinity was too vast. They didn't have many scouts to track Lu Li. Now that Uncle Li was so confident, Lu Li would not be able to escape. Once he was found and the 2 gods worked together, Lu Li would die sooner or later. There are so many treasures of the second plane. This 9 stars plate is impressive. Zhuoqilu and the others were once again in awe of the second plane. Any random artifact could be so powerful. Who could tell what other treasures the 2 had? Lu Li stopped after flying for 5 times. He stood on the peak of a small hill with a grave expression on his face. He realized that he had made a grave mistake. He had overestimated his abilities and underestimated the abilities and skills of a warrior at the second plane. He had gone to the meeting alone and was so arrogant to negotiate with a warrior at the second plane. He didn't think much of it before. Now, he realized that he had been too naive and arrogant. He still felt a chill down his spine when he thought about how he was restrained by the wind and couldn't move at all. If young Master Yan's attack was not the thunderstorm intent, but something else, he wouldn't need to kill him in one move. He could just break through his defense, and he would be killed easily. Young Master Yin could keep restraining him with the wind and destroy his body bit by bit until he was smashed into pieces. The second plane is 1 level higher than the divinity, just like the difference between the divinity and the mortal world. How strong can the divinity's divinity be? How many powerful killing techniques are there in the divinity? I was too careless and underestimated the enemy. Lu Li exhaled deeply. His frown was getting deeper and deeper. Young Master Yin had the primordial spirit heaven armor. He couldn't break it. He had almost no hope of winning. The only thing he could rely on now was to fly so that young Master Yin and the others couldn't find him. The problem was if Zhuoqilu and the others went to the land of Yuyin, even if Pan Yuqin, Ling Qingyin, and the others had all moved, Zhuoqilu and the others could slaughter wantonly in the land of Yuyin, forcing him to go to the land of Yuyin. By then, where would he go? Even if he took 10,000 steps back. Chapter 1771. Lu Li felt the situation was tricky. The powerful warriors of the Hall of Black Flame formed a barrier in front of him. Even though his life was not in danger, Lu Li felt this was an unsolvable problem. Given his current abilities, he could not overcome this barrier. In the face of absolute power, no tricks or schemes would work. Young Master Yin was wearing the Chaos Spirit armor. Lu Li could just stand there and let young Master Yin kill him. Since he could not kill young Master Yin, no matter what he thought of, it would be futile. This was because he could not pose any threat to the people of Black Flame Hall, but the people of Black Flame Hall could pose a threat to him. The Chaos Spirit armor was too strong. Unless he could get another elixir to enhance his abilities, he would not be able to do that. However, that kind of divine pill could only be found in the second heaven. Moreover, even if he was given one, if he dared to swallow it, he would definitely die from the backlash. Do I really have to seek shelter at the palace of Shangqing? An idea came to Lu Li's mind. If he went to the palace of Shangqing, then the problem could be solved. Since the palace of Shangqing had spoken, the Hall of Black Flame would leave and the matter would be over. However, Lu Li's pride would not allow him to do so. If he gave in, would he still be himself? What was the point of him persevering all this way? If he went to the palace of Shangqing, he would be a dog. Even if the divinity was unified, he would only be a puppet. Which was more important, life or dignity? For Lu Li, it must be the latter. Without pride and unyielding fighting spirit, he would not have made it this far. It was not Luli to bow down and surrender at the slightest setback. Chaos Spirit Armor? How do we deal with the Grand Spirit Heavenly Treasure? Luli thought about it. Soon he had an idea. He seemed to have half a Chaos Spirit Armor. He had 3 mountains. If he could find the other 2, he might be able to combine them into one Chaos Spirit Armor. Chaos Spirit Armor was of the same level. It might not be able to break young Master Yan's armor, but it could at least inflict some damage on him. Let's go back to the land of Yuyan and enter the ancient demon's dead ground. Luli had made up his mind. He put aside everything else and flew toward the north. His soul was so strong that he would not feel weak even after flying for 100 times. On the other side, Uncle Li and Yinjun suddenly stopped because the 9-star plate in Yinjun's hand started to spin, and the spoon pointed towards the north. He fled to the north. Yinjun said with certainty, the 9-star plate would never be wrong. Now that Luli had been found, unless Luli left the divinity, he could be tracked down. Let's go. We'll teleport to the north. Uncle Li ordered decisively. At the same time, he said, let's keep a low profile along the way. Don't let Luli know that we are following him. As long as I catch up to him, I'll be able to kill him in one move. Low profile. Zhuoqiu Lu and the others looked at each other awkwardly. How could they possibly keep a low profile when there were so many supremes of the immortal world? No matter how he tried to restrain his aura, it would still be shocking. Along the way, they had continuously teleported. The land of Yian definitely had scouts lying in ambush in every major city. It was impossible to hide their tracks. After Zhuoqiu Lu explained her worries, Uncle Li's ring lit up, and he took out some medicinal pills to distribute. One medicinal pill can be used for a month. After consuming it, you will be able to adjust your aura at will. If we disguise ourselves as ordinary martial artists, it won't be easy for us to be discovered, right? No problem. Zhuoqiu Lu was overjoyed. Too many people have been teleporting from different cities recently. There are only 12 of us. As long as we can suppress our aura and disguise ourselves, the average scouts will not be able to find us. They took pellets at once and disguised themselves. Some used strange masks, and some used disguise pellets. Soon, they disguised themselves as average warriors. There was nothing special about their appearances. They teleported away quickly. But compared to Lu Li's speed, it was still too slow. Lu Li could fly across more than one prefecture in one trip, and it would only take him an hour to do so. Zhuoqiu Lu and the others would have to teleport several times to go across a prefecture, which would take them at least 6 to 8 hours. Lu Li barely stopped along the way. He planned to fly across the void to the land of Yuyan and take a rest there. Young Master Yan's strength had given him a sense of danger. He could not wait to conquer the other 2 mountains. Missing? 3 days later, Jian Shalai received a report from his subordinates in a small city. He looked awful. It was not that Lu Li was missing, but that Lu Li was flying toward the north. Jian Shalai had received the information. The ones missing were the 2 immortals of the Black Flame Hall and Zhuoqiu Lu. After the 12 left the Black Wind Mountain, they were out of the sight of the scouts he had planted. 3 days had passed, but they were nowhere to be found. Jian Shalai did not know the exact situation of the battle at the Black Wind Mountain. Though Lu Li was still alive, the situation was not optimistic. Otherwise, Lu Li wouldn't have gone to the land of Yuyan and left no order or message for Jian Shalai. Zhuoqiu Lu and the others must be alive as well. Otherwise, Lu Li would not have gone to the land of Yuyan in such a hurry. Jian Shalai sent someone to check around the Black Wind Mountain, but found no dead bodies. Lu Li fled to the north. Zhuoqiu Lu and the others had disappeared mysteriously, which made Jian Shalai feel pressured. If Jian Shalai could not find the whereabouts of these 12 people, and Lu Li was ambushed, he would be a sinner forever. Oh, there are 12 of them. Jian Shalai suddenly came to his senses. He sent a message at once, asking all the scouts to pay attention to whether a team of 12 people was teleporting or flying. 1 day later, 3 pieces of news were sent over. 3 teams of 12 people were teleported. One was teleporting to the land of Yuyan, One was teleporting to the south from the land of Yuyin, and the last one was teleporting to the east from the west. After analyzing the information carefully, Jian Shilai slapped the map with his hand and yelled coldly, "These 12 people are Zhuqiu Lu and the others. They have disguised themselves and concealed their energy. Send a message. Keep an eye on them. We can't let them get away from our surveillance." At the same time, Jian Shilai sent someone to intercept Lu Li and tell him that Zhuqiu Lu and the others were following him. In doing so, Lu Li would be mentally prepared and would be able to plan what to do next. In addition, Jian Shilai sent an urgent message to Pan Yuqin, informing her that Zhuqiu Lu and the others were coming to the north. Whether Zhuqiu Lu and the others were chasing after Lu Li, or for Ling Qingyin and Zhuqiu Lu, as long as they stepped into the land of Yuyin, they were like 12 sharp knives that could easily stab the land of Yuyin into a bloody mess. Have the people of the Black Flame Hall and Zhuqiu Lu caught up with us? One day later, Lu Li had just come out from the void when he was found by a scout and learned some information. Chapter 1772. Lu Li was much faster than young Master Yin and the others. When he arrived at the Yuyin land, young Master Yin and the others had just arrived at the northern divinity. It would take them 3 or 4 days to teleport here. That was to say, Lu Li only had 3 or 4 days. He needed to obtain the other 2 divine mountains within 3 or 4 days and merge the 5 divine mountains together. Also, he had to figure out a way to deal with Zhuqiu Lu and the others. Who knew what would happen after the 5 mountains were integrated? What would they be capable of? What if the primordial spirit treasure was not of much use and could not defeat Yin Zhen and the others? Lu Li did not know where the other 2 mountains were. He was not sure that he could find them in 3 or 4 days. Therefore, he must come up with a foolproof plan and a plan of retreat. Whoosh! As soon as he arrived at the Yuyin land, a man came from the distance. Lu Li checked with psychic power and was overjoyed. Ye Kai was here. Pan Yuqin must have learned of his whereabouts from Jian Shilai and told Ye Kai to wait here. Lord! Ye Kai bowed with respect. Lu Li waved his hand and asked, "Where are your young lady and Prince Yin?" "They are in a cave hundreds of thousands of miles away." Ye Kai cupped his fists and said, "They have been waiting for you. Didn't I tell them to leave?" Lu Li frowned. He was worried about Ling Qingyin, Pan Yuqin, and the 9 immortal kings when Zhuqiu Lu and the others came. As for the civilians of the Yuyin land, Lu Li did not care. He was not the master of the Yuyin land, and he had no sense of belonging there. Besides, Zhuqiu Lu and the others would not be so crazy as to kill civilians. After all, he was not dead yet. If he was angered, he would seek revenge, which would damage the foundation of the entire divinity. Let's go. Lu Li did not have time to ask. He flew away with Ye Kai at the top of his speed. In the time for several incense sticks to burn, they arrived at a huge mountain. Over there, Ye Kai pointed to a mountain and said, "There is an illusion at the foot of the mountain. Go inside and you will find a cave." Lu Li flew over with him. When they arrived at the illusion, the inhibition formation suddenly trembled. Then the illusion disappeared. Ling Qingyin and Pan Yuqin stood at the entrance of a cave. Their eyes glowed when they saw Lu Li. "Let's talk inside." Lu Li didn't want to waste time. He took the lead and went into the cave. Pan Yuqin and Ling Qingyin followed him. There was an underground castle in the cave, which was quite beautiful. Lu Li sat on the main seat and asked, "Why haven't you arranged for evacuation?" "The evacuation has been arranged," Ling Qingyin explained. "The direct descendants of the 9 divine king clans have all moved to the secret land. The collateral descendants are also moving. We can leave at any time. There is a teleportation formation here. You guys can leave." Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Don't come out until I send you a message. So long as all you don't come out, then Zhuqiu Lu and the others won't be able to threaten me, and it'll be much easier for me to fight." "Is it very troublesome?" Pan Yuqin frowned. It seemed that Lu Li had almost recovered. He must have run into some trouble when he came back immediately after a trip to the divinity. Lu Li didn't hide anything. He said, I fought against a powerful warrior of the Hall of Black Flames. He has the Chaos Heaven armor. I cannot kill him with my current abilities. The Chaos Heaven armor? Pan Yuqin and Ling Qingyin looked at each other, and their faces darkened. There were several Chaos Heaven treasures at the land of Yuyin and the divinity. Up until now, there were no defensive armors. There were only 2 weapons, and most of them were auxiliary treasures. The Craftsman City was a Chaos Heaven treasure. Back in the days, Emperor Yoshing and the demons have been attacking it for a long time, but they couldn't crack it. Luli was at a loss. In the end, he had to take a pellet given by Second Heaven Force to crack it open. Now that the warriors of the Hall of Black Flames had the Chaos Heaven armor, they were almost invincible. No wonder Luli told them to leave. Zhuqilu could use them to lure Luli to his death. Okay, let's go. Ling Qingyan nodded and said, "The disciples of the 9 divine kings have left according to the plan. Luli, don't worry about them. Even if Zhuqilu is going to slaughter you at the land of Yuyin, don't be rash. Try to protect yourself. That is the only way to have a chance to win." But Ling Qingyan couldn't help but say, "If you can join the Shangqing Palace, then don't worry about it." Luli waved his hand and said, "You might as well kill me, then let me join the Shangqing Palace. Don't worry. I will go to the ancient demon's dead ground and find a way to get the other 2 mountains. In that way, I will have a chance to merge them into one Chaos Heaven treasure." Ancient demon's dead ground? Ling Qingyan's eyes glowed. "Luli, let me go with you. I have been to the ancient demon's dead ground many times, and I am familiar with it. I can save you a lot of trouble." "Sure." Luli stood up and said, "Okay. Yuqin, I will leave Shi'er to you. Take good care of her for me." "Don't worry." Pan Yuqin looked at Luli affectionately and said, "Luli, don't be rash. Your safety comes first. If you die, everyone at the land of Yuyin will die. You must take care of yourself first." "Don't worry." Luli waved his hand and put Ling Qingyan into the wicked bead. Then he tore open the void and left. The ancient demon's dead ground was still some distance away. Naturally, Luli could not fly over, which would waste too much time. Luli flew for more than a dozen times, and finally, he arrived at the ancient demon's dead ground. The space here was not stable. He didn't dare to fly anymore, so he let Ling Qingyan out. He used psychic power to check the surroundings. When he found several warriors, he flew over with Ling Qingyan. Several warriors were walking around the ancient demon's dead ground. When they saw 2 people flying over, their eyes were glued to them. Ling Qingyan's looks were out of this world. Her graceful figure was enough to drive them crazy. Ling Qingyan snorted heavily. His voice was like a clap of thunder in the minds of these people. They immediately woke up. One of them suddenly narrowed his eyes and kneeled down to salute. "Greetings, Lord Lu and Prince of Yin." "Lord Lu? Prince of Yin?" The others trembled. They dropped to their knees and prostrated on the ground, not daring to breathe too loudly. Just now, they dared to profane Prince of Yin. They must be tired of living. "Get up," Lu Li said coldly. "Spread the word for me. Let the entire land of Yuyin know Prince of Yin and I are at the ancient demon's dead ground. If Zhuqilu wants to find us, she must come to the ancient demon's dead ground." Yes. For them, Lu Li's order was like an imperial edict. Not only would they not disobey, but they would try their best to do it. Once the news was spread, everyone at the land of Yuyin would help spread the word. Soon, the entire land of Yuyin would know about it. "Let's go." Lu Li rushed into the ancient demon's dead ground with Ling Qingyan. He believed that after he spread the word, Yin Zhen, Zhuqilu, and the others would not cause any trouble in the land of Yuyin. They would only go to the ancient demon's dead ground to find him. There are so many inhibition formations here. A bold idea came to Lu Li's mind. The ancient demon's dead ground was full of inhibition formations. Could he find a way to kill Zhuqilu and the others here? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.